middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war.
Full Auto Friday.
It's gonna be a little different tonight. We're not even gonna get the dozens we probably get on you.
No, we probably won't.
We have
the replay will do way better.
The recording will do better.
We'll do way
So
better.
for anyone watching this later, the reason this is not live on YouTube is because talking about the subject, we figure you guys might want to actually see the things we're talking about. And if we stream that live on YouTube, it's going to be bad. I mean, no.
Yes.
But we can record it and post it later.
Yeah. So TLM Ryan, I've been talking to him. He's doing a review of the debate today, even though
everyone told him not to.
Yeah. I was like, don't even bother, man. Like, it's what are you doing? But so he's like, well, he was like, well, I think me and you would have a better take on the debate. But I mean, honestly, other than the ballistics, the rest of it I just don't care about. I didn't watch a single. I just watched like people's reaction, and there's one of two. It is one of two reactions. It was either people in Candace's camp saying she just wiped the floor with them, or people in Wilson's camp saying like he showed her up. Like that was it.
Yep.
No one changed their mind with that debate whatsoever.
No.
And to be honest with you, with most, especially when you have two very strong personalities like that, people aren't going to change their mind.
No, if you had had two completely unknown people of equal debate caliber do it, that would have been more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Andrew Wilson has never really debated anybody that wasn't like a high school dropout. Like that's pretty much his bread and butter. So when he went against someone who was had I mean, not that Candace Owens is a better debater. She's not a master debater. But she was much more prepared than I think he was usually used to. And a couple of clips I've seen, he's just floundering. Right. And then anyway, it was ridiculous. I can't believe it went that long. It was like 3-4 hours.
Nearly anything I could possibly do in life would be a better.
Well, I wonder if some priests are going to start giving that as penance.
Penance.
Go through and watch
the church. The church is going to indulgence that for sure. Yeah.
That is absolutely true. This is a plenary indulgence to watch the entire. Now you have to be separated from sin, and all the usual
all the usual conditions need apply.
But it's a plenary indulgence, only on this date every year. It's just wild to me that even happened. But I don't know. But I was looking at just the numbers of it, and Candace Owens is way more popular than I think people really understand. The amount of views watching her was 10 times what Andrew Wilson was on his channel.
Yeah,
and like 3 to 4 times what Patrick Bet-David was having on his channel. It was like it's just the amount of people who.
So she's going to get all that ad revenue, the sponsorship money, and then $300,000 just for showing up.
Yep. Did you see that he put up a Give Send Go to try and reimburse him for it?
Yeah.
He got like $70,000.
Anthony, if you ever watch this, if I ever get murdered, I hope you, as my best friend, are able to monetize it greatly for yourself.
Absolutely. Do it. I don't know, man. It's just crazy to me that what is on my wall? I got attacked by hornets earlier when I was doing some yard work. I got hit in the chest a couple times. So now, like, I'm looking at everything and saying, are those hornets? I don't know. Those might be hornets. I'm gonna spray them when I get out of here. It's nighttime, so I'm not worried about them. They're sleeping, but so now I'm looking around. It's like, you start seeing me start waving my arms during the show.
Yeah.
The hornets. So I reached out to a couple of attorney friends I have here in Birmingham about the NFA.
Okay.
And asking what their opinion on it. One guy, he basically just told me, he's like, I haven't really read a whole lot on it. It's not really his purview as far as the type of law that he practices. So he directed me to another friend of mine who does he's worked for Trump in a few cases out of Atlanta. He's done a couple of Second Amendment cases. He hasn't gotten back to me, but a couple of the guys a couple of the local gun shops I've talked to, see if they've gotten any feedback from their IOIs, like basically the people that from the ATF that they liaison with, it's guidance, and they haven't heard a thing, not a thing. And their IOIs saying, totally, we haven't heard anything either. Like, I can't give you any guidance because they've given us none at this point. Which probably is a smart move by the ATF to just not do anything. Because then if there's no guidance, then like everything's really the status quo because nobody's wanting to lose their license, their FFL license, in order to be able to do this. And on top of that, because of the ruling, the ATF isn't processing Form 4s right now. But for those of you who don't know, Form 4 is what's required to obtain a suppressor.
Yeah.
And if they're not processing them, then nobody's getting theirs. So if you're in the process of getting one and would just wait for your Form 4 to be approved, well, it's on hold right now. It may be a long time before you get it. Because there's no guidance being given. They're just basically not doing anything. Which is best case scenario for them, worst case scenario for us.
Hopefully PSA and Silencer Shop are pumping out as many as they possibly can.
Yeah, but you had to live in those states. Because even if you bought something from Silencer Shop and had it shipped to your FFL here, the FFL here isn't going to transfer it to you because they're afraid of losing their license.
I think Silencer Shop dealers largely are.
I don't know. I tried reaching out to my Silencer Shop dealer, and they're like, well, right now we're not doing anything.
They're not doing anything.
You know, unless you've got an approved Form 4, because they've been given no guidance about anything. Now, as far as I understand, the Attorney General of Alabama is going to be giving out some guidance early next week. And so, but that doesn't come from the ATF.
Well, it sounds like the ATF's website is probably getting updated on Tuesday, it looks like.
Is that right?
That's what I've been seeing online. Do we want to go over briefly like the background of all this for anyone?
Yeah, go for it.
So all this is involving the NFA, the National Firearms Act, right? That's what it stands for, doesn't it? Which originally from the 30s, and basically it regulates suppressors, short-barreled rifles, short-barrel shotguns, and what is called AOW, all other weapons, which I don't know. We could spend hours trying to explain to everyone exactly what all those things are legally and stuff. But regardless, it's been held that the NFA is only constitutional because of the government's power to tax. And up until recently, you needed a $200 tax stamp. And to get that tax stamp, you had to go, get fingerprints, have another background check, bunch of hoops to buy that tax stamp to then get one of these regulated items. But then last year, and part of Trump's big beautiful bill or whatever it's called, originally they wanted to try to get rid of it altogether, but they decided to kind of weaken it, figuring that wouldn't pass, and then just make that $200 tax stamp $0. You still have to, the idea was you still had to go through all the hoops and get a $0 tax stamp, but at least it would be free. But some plaintiffs, notably Palmetto State Armory, Silencer Co. / Silencer Shop, and some states, right, like Texas, I think, and a few other states, all sued the ATF, saying that their idea was that if this is all based on the power to tax, The tax is $0. It's not a tax. Therefore, it should be illegal. And a district court in Texas, right?
Yes, Northern Texas
ruled in their favor. Then, but stayed the motion for 7 days to give the government 7 days to appeal before it took effect. The government decided not to appeal within that time. They have 60 days overall to appeal. But on Wednesday at midnight, the ruling took effect, saying that anyone in those plaintiffs, so any customer of Palmetto State, any customer of Silencer Shop, any citizen of the states that were plaintiffs, the NFA, more or less, involving suppressors, short barrel rifle, short barrel shotguns, and all other weapons, no longer applies to them. More or less.
Yeah.
But since then, there are some states who have their own laws that require you to. So, like, there's 15 of them. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but like Georgia, for instance, still requires you to get a Form 4 through the ATF to get a suppressor. But if you live in a state that doesn't require that, and you order from Silencer Shop or member of Gun Owners of America, for instance, they were a plaintiff, theoretically, you should be able to buy a suppressor from, well, actually from anyone, technically, without the ATF registration.
Yeah. And the NFA, its original purpose was to target the mafia.
Yep.
Because the mafia was using suppressors back then, or silencers, as the original patent name of it was.
And they would cut down Thompson, submachine guns, cut down the BARs, cut down shotguns, right?
Yeah.
And the idea was the $200 tax stamp. That was really expensive in 1934.
Yeah. Yeah, and it never changed.
Never changed. No.
It stayed $200 forever up until January 1st of this year is when it went to zero. And even like in looking at the economy of suppressors and SBRs, because if you wanted to make a short barrel rifle, you had to do the Form 4 as well, then or Form 1 if you're making it yourself. You have to engrave it and all that, right? And once that went away, well, you had a bunch with it. I think in the first quarter of this year, or first half of this year, they already sold over 1.4 million suppressors, which is up from I think the total number last year was 750,000.
Yeah.
My numbers might be a little off, but it's roughly around those numbers. But because then you get into because I was explaining it to my wife, because I was showing her my rifle with a pistol brace on it. I was like, last Wednesday or last Tuesday or this past Tuesday, this is how to have it. And if I put this buttstock on it, it was a felony.
One of these was legal on Tuesday. One of these was not.
Right.
And if you don't know these really well, you'd have no idea which one is which. Matter of fact, in my opinion, the crappier one here was actually the legal option of these two.
And to be honest with you, I like the SBA 3 through 5. SBA is just the name of a brace. Yeah. What's intended for? This is a brace. Let me get front of my camera. So this is a brace, and so what's intended for? Why it's called a brace and why it is only a pistol then is because when you put it on the stock, this part was to wrap around your forearm so you could hold it. Let me try my camera. So hold it with one hand, right? I'm trying to get a better view of it.
Yeah.
Right? Is what the intention was.
It would be you'd have that Velcro wrapped around.
Right. It'd be wrapped
so you
around.
hold it one-handed.
But then there was some guidance that was put out by the ATF that said you could shoulder it and not count it as a buttstock, which is stupid, honestly, but I'm glad they did it. So then you had a lot of people buying braces and just using them as a buttstock, because there's really no difference between that and my shoulder and a buttstock.
I was going to say the first braces were definitely worse as
Yeah, there are some that are terrible. They're like just a thin piece of plastic, and that is not fun.
Like this one here.
Like, yeah, PSA puts out something like that. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And that one's just meant to like go on one side of your forearm so you can shoot it. Yeah.
Yeah, just like that.
Which is dumb. It's just stupid. But as of Wednesday, you can now do this. Butt stock. Here in Alabama, I can anyway.
Right.
You just have one of these now, which is arbitrary and stupid. Like, how does it? One, it's not a pistol. Everybody knows what a pistol like. That's a pistol.
Yep.
Everybody knows that, right? This does not require a brace whatsoever. Putting this on a rifle does not make it, but in the ATF size at the time, that was what it was. And it actually, that had to be fought in the courts as well, because they tried to say, well, you can no longer shoulder anymore. So then they're taken to court by a few organizations again to get it put back to where you could use it and still shoulder it, right? And when that happened,
I was going to say, what's even crazier is say you have a pistol like this with a so-called brace, but instead of a non-vertical, this is technically a non-vertical foregrip.
yes.
But if you put a completely vertical foregrip, then it's any other weapon legally, an AOW.
Yes. Because the foregrip, the vertical grip or foregrip has to be 90 degrees.
Yes.
If it's like 88, well, it doesn't count. Right? Like, this is the arbitrariness of the ATF. This is how stupid these things are. Right? This is what we've been fighting against forever. Now, keep in mind, when the ATF came with that rule and said that you could shoulder it, people were buying braces. Like, you couldn't find them.
Yeah.
They were flying off the shelves. And that's why braces are actually more expensive than most
butt stocks
now. The SBA 6, I think MSRP on this like $125, which is because I've gotten like this Magpul butt stock on my rifle over here was like 80. But they're flying off the shelves. And so now we're in the view of common use. Now they're common use. So now it's real hard to pull back from that. They can't say, well, it used to be legal, now it's not. But we have millions of them out there. If we make it illegal, now we've got millions of felons.
Yep.
So which makes it hard for the ATF to pull back on it. I know the gun tube police. Look, it's clear. I can't shoot you through the screen. But now we're in this issue of common use. So
it's funny the whole common use thing is actually the reason why the arbitrary length for rifles versus pistols is 16 inches. Because for shotguns, a normal shotgun is anything 18 and over. A short barrel shotgun is anything under 18 inches. Mm-hmm. And it was originally that way for rifles too, until the government accidentally sold a bunch of surplus M1 Garand, I think it was a bunch of surplus M1 Garands that had barrels shorter than 18, that had 16-inch barrels. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, now we got to change the NFA because otherwise we just made a bunch of felons ourselves.
Yes. Which is another arbitrary decision is if the barrel, it has to be 16 inches. So you've got people buying a 13.7 inch barrel and putting like a 2.3 inch flash hider on it, pin and weld it. So now it's technically 16 inches.
Yep.
Right. So it's just
a lot of my 16-inch rifles are like that. Most of them actually.
So dumb. So I don't have a single rifle that's like a 13.7 or 14.5. I thought it was so dumb. I just never bought into it because like this rifle's a 12.5.
Yeah.
And now like 11.5 is the new hotness. It was 10.3, 10.5 for a long time, and I've got an old. I say old. It's a Aero Precision upper. It's a 10.5. But like that thing, you have to put a suppressor on that thing. You have to, because you cannot shoot that. It doesn't matter if you have a flashlight or a muzzle brake. You will lose friends shooting that thing around them. Like it's really annoying to shoot around. So I put another suppressor on it, but I like all mine. I have a 16-inch Sugar Weasel. I have a 16-inch M4 clone for my time in the GWAT. I've got a 16-inch that I bought, 10, 12 years ago from Patriot Ordnance Factory. And now that was kind of turned into my DMR rifle now because I had to put a new barrel in it because I shot out the other barrel. But now I've got like a 3 to 18 scope on it.
Nice.
So that's my, if I want to reach out and touch somebody at about 700 yards rifle now. But it's just the arbitrariness of all this is ridiculous. Which is what this is showing because there's multiple other lawsuits out there against the ATF about different things. Like there's one just ruled in LA, I think today or yesterday.
I think it was yesterday.
Basically fighting them, saying that, about their concealed carry laws. So I want to bring this up real quick. Let me add this real quick. So this is a map of what they call the free states and NFA states.
It is so funny to see Minnesota listed as a free state on there.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny to see Georgia's not, and
Mississippi, North Carolina, Montana, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Wyoming, no, it's Montana. My eyes are
Montana, North Dakota,
North Dakota. Those are crazy to me. But so all the red states don't have NFA laws, as far as referring more than what the federal government did.
Yep.
Okay. All the blue states have some type of law on the books that refers, that makes it more stringent than the federal government did. Like some of them say, there's not really an NFA law, but in order to have an NFA item, you have to have a Form 4 for it, right? Or it has to be approved by the ATF or something. So it's like they got you on like one little quick law that kind of pins you in now. And so now these states are going to have to pass laws themselves in their own state legislatures to get rid of those. Like Alabama here, there is no laws on the books whatsoever as regarding NFA items. Now, other than machine guns and stuff. Because, in fact, Alabama last year passed a law against Glock switches. So you can't have a Glock switch, but you can have an FRT. It's wild, man. It's wild. It's just so dumb. But we know who exactly the Glock switch law was targeting. We know exactly who that was. But so if you're in these red states, I mean, I would still check your state laws, but it's probably pretty favorable for you.
Yeah.
Like if you have an AR pistol and
put a stock on that bad boy,
and you want to throw a stock on that thing, what's stopping you? Just check your laws, though. I don't want anybody to go to
We're
jail.
not lawyers.
Yeah. I don't want anybody going, well, Adrian told me that I could do this. And they're going, who's Adrian? He's not an attorney. Why are you listening to him? You're dumb. But yeah, it's so stupid, some of these laws. And not only that, but they're selectively enforced as well. Like they'll, for example, when it comes to, like, some states still have red flag laws. And what they'll do is they'll use a red flag law to then take your firearms from you, hoping, and then if they find like if you're an NFA violation, well, they're going to hit you with that one too.
Yep.
Right. And I don't know if y'all know about the Dugan Ashley case, but he's basically being railroaded because he was videoing himself making, I won't say explosives, but they were explosives. And just showing like him doing it, right? Not showing you how to make it, just showing him doing it. And you can make explosives for your own personal use at your property to an extent, and it's not illegal, right? But you do have to like notify the ATF that you're doing it. But they got
It'll be an interesting phone call.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I got some gophers. For those of y'all who've never seen Caddyshack, but what they did for him is they got him on those videos and then hit him with a bunch of other stuff when they went to his house and confiscated a bunch of stuff. And they just hit him with a bunch of other stuff. Some firearms and stuff he had. But some of these states are crazy to me. Like, who is it? Lawfare. He's in our Telegram. He's in Virginia, and he's an FFL. And he's like, I'm not doing anything. He's like, I'm not changing anything up, even though he's in a red state. Because he's like, I'm afraid, and he's concerned that the ATF's going to come after him if he doesn't, even though he's following the law on it because they've not put any guidance out. And I get that. I agree. Don't there's no. Do not go to your local gun store and give them crap for not just 4473 a suppressor or an SBR or something. Like, you're not worth them losing their license and their livelihood. They're going to say, just give it some time, give it a couple weeks, and see how this thing shakes out when guidance finally comes out, and then hopefully they're not. Now, there have been some that I've seen reported on X of guys who are just, they're like, hey, I live in a red state. I'm a local FFL, and this is what it says. I'm 4473 them to guys. Hopefully they got an attorney on retainer in case something happens. But that's within it's within the injunction. So they're on the right side of it right now, but the ATF is not, a big fan of following the law. They'll come after you for anything and just make some stuff up sometimes. So just be careful. Use good judgment. So when my kids go to bed, they like to watch me for a couple minutes before they go to bed. And my wife say I'm not online. We are. She doesn't see me on YouTube because I'm not on YouTube. Because we can't be on YouTube because they will kick us off for showing all some of the stuff. So there is a gun store here in Alabama, in Pelham, Alabama, actually, just south of Birmingham, who makes their own suppressors. They CNC all they're traditional suppressors. There's no flow through or low back pressure. It's a traditional suppressor.
Yeah, I have one about half an hour from me that does it too.
And the guy who owns it is a former SEAL. Don't hold that against him. But I want to go talk to him and see if he's selling, because he's not asking a lot. Like for his, he has like $400 for a stainless steel suppressor.
Yeah, the place near me is like $300.
Yeah, because he's got a CNC machine in the back and he just makes them there and like he'll make you one there right now, like while you're waiting. He'll just make you one.
That's awesome.
But I want to go talk to him and see what he's doing. I didn't get the good chance today or yesterday, with work, but I might try and pop in there next week and see what he's doing, because he's all about giving it to the man any chance he can.
And I mean, there's people that are 3D printing suppressors too. They're only going to let, if it's a PLA filament sort of, material, they're only going to last a couple of shots, but
there are some of those filaments that last a few hundred rounds.
Really?
But if you want to print yourself and just print yourself one every week, like how expensive is that? Like $20? $10. Like it depends, depends what kind of suppressor you're doing. You say you get 500 rounds out of it before it's bad. Another.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't see any downs. If you're in a red state, man, just make sure you got an attorney on, right, waiting for you just in case. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about? I mean, it's funny because I've been looking at a lot of, like, for example, I'll show you I'm not going to tell you the name of the store, but this is a major firearm store here in Alabama, in northern Alabama. And they put out a post on Facebook yesterday. It says, nothing has changed in regards to the NFA for us in Alabama. We will not be transferring NFA items without a Form 4 until we hear from federal government entity regarding the suit and how to move forward. We will keep everyone updated if this does change. Now, let me tell you some of these comments. All right. One guy says, I will vouch for said federal government entity. Let the suppressors roll. I doubt he's actually for the government. Let's see. Here's a guy. He says, I work at a gun shop in Tennessee. I'm not going to jail for a customer. I'm not letting our 85-year-old store owner go to federal prison, and my dog doesn't have life insurance. So an ATF visit is out of the question. Your store is doing the right thing.
The dog doesn't have life insurance.
So then here's a guy that says, shops still wanting to file just shows the government that they still have no problem filing it, which in my opinion just gives the government more of a fight to do anything to reverse the decision. Nothing can be done by the ATF if the shop is covered by the lawsuit, such as having a silencer shop kiosk. If the ATF goes after a shop in Alabama, then they definitely have to go after any other shop in most other states, including Silencer Shop, Silencer Co., PSA, a bunch of small town shops. So, like, you're starting to see the two different positions starting to develop. And then you also see a lot of people who aren't familiar with what the injunction actually says.
Yeah.
Shame on y'all. The ATF is an administrative agency whose job is to uphold laws. They have no power to create their own. I mean, technically, but they can interpret laws.
Well, the rulemaking
have been
they can
interpreting
do
laws.
is BS. That's basically making laws.
Yeah, the interpretation is the law they're making.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another guy says Vans or this shop. Sorry, I didn't mean to name them. Just lost all my business. Probably a lot of others too. You probably weren't shopping there already anyway. Let's see. So the other one says currently the only ones directly listed as plaintiffs in the lawsuit can legally bypass Form 4. The North Texas district in which the ruling was made, Primary Arms. See, he's already wrong about that. It's not Primary Arms. And the Silencer Shop are currently the only groups free to sell without a form being issued. So
No.
he's already got one of them wrong. While Form 4 has no current cost, thanks to the big, beautiful bill, except for these named plaintiffs, it is still required. While it will be impossible for the government to enforce Form 4 for everyone else without appealing this ruling, no licensed FFL dealer with any brains will risk the possibility of breaking federal laws until it's clarified by the ATF. This clarification will likely come very soon. I doubt that. I don't think it will at all. I think they're going to drag their feet on it. But it's so you're seeing back for like some people like, yeah, I get it. We'll just wait. The other guy's like, I'm never going to shop here again. Like, brother, you weren't buying anything there anyway. Let's see. But I want to, that brings up a point. Right now, while we're listening in this injunction, if we have people, and we have a few local gun shops who are just selling them 4473ing them and just doing like dozens a day, and we have dozens of firearms FFLs in a state doing that across 27 states every day for the next 60 days, we're going to have too many out there. How are they going to enforce that? How are they going to know when you bought it? And when you got it? How are they going to know when you made your rifle an SBR?
I'm going to say, I think if anything, the SBR part especially is going, I mean, like, if everyone who could, everyone who's technically related to those plaintiffs, which if you're a gun owner, go get a year membership to GOA for what, $25, something like that.
Yeah.
And then put a stock on your AR pistol. And enough people do that, they'll never know when someone did that, right?
Yeah.
Like even if it becomes illegal again, they'll never know what's grandfathered in and what's not.
Yeah. They kind of will know because they keep a registration of all these people, right? Which they're not supposed to, but they do it anyway. There is a building in West Virginia that holds all the hard copies of the 4473.
Yeah.
So, man, it would be horrible if that.
Well, what I'm saying, the suppressor, right? Unless you're making your own, you're going to go buy a suppressor. In which case, you'll still need a 4473. The SBRs, unless you go and buy a pre-built SBR, you don't need a 4473 to go to a store and buy a Magpul stock to put on your pistol.
Right.
So there won't be records of those.
Well, I mean, if you're doing a Form 1, if you're buying it as an SBR, there could be a record.
Right.
But the problem is, what we're trying to do is get to common use.
Yes.
Right. If we get 1 million of them out there in the next 60 days, SBRs, suppressors, short barrels, shotguns and everything, then it's going to be hard for them to pull back on that. Even if they file an appeal in the next 60 days and they get granted, and then there's a stay put on the injunction until it goes to the next level, right? And then it goes to the Supreme Court, right? But it's going to be real hard for and then we go back to the normal process where they're just pumping them out anyway. People were getting some approvals within a day. So if they go back to that, then we're going to have, by the end of this year, we may have 2.5 million suppressors out there and another 2.5 million short barrel rifles. We're at common use at that point.
Yeah.
Which the Supreme Court has always ruled on the side of common use. Now, right now, we have 2 justices who are old, who are very pro 2A, and they may retire in that meantime. And if that happens and we don't replace them with other pro 2A people, then we could be in a predicament.
Yep.
If we don't say the next president is a Democrat, say AOC decides to unfreeze her eggs and have some babies and run for president, then she's going to put in very liberal justices if she has a chance. And if we go to because right now we're a 5-4, sometimes 6-3, depending on the topic. Right now I'm more conservative, but that could switch the other way to 5-4, 6-3, the other way. It just depends.
We somehow need to push out Roberts and ACB while Trump is still president.
Amy Coney Barrett has been a huge disappointment. She was the issue for the birthright citizenship case.
Yep.
Because
where are some of her adopted children from?
Adopted children. But there was a rumor going around that right after they ruled on that, and they showed her the billboards for the birthright tourism.
Yeah.
She's, like what she says, if it was brought in front of her again, she'd rule the other way. Like, I don't know if I believe that.
No.
But it's just, we need to get to a point where we're just pushing the envelope constantly. Just constantly because the left does it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got institutional coverage as well. This is why they do it. And the right is too scared to do anything about it, which is why we're not deporting hardly anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We should be, we should see entire neighborhoods get deported at this point, but we're not. You want to see property values come down and salaries go up? Deport 200 million people that are here illegally.
I'd say load them up on trains, but that might have
give them numbers,
image.
Give them numbers, and keep them away from typhoid.
But they only have 6. The numbers only have 6 digits, Adrian. There's not going to be enough numbers, Adrian. Where's that Show Tunes kid conspiracy theorist video when we need it? Do you remember that video? Not
you don't remember that? I'll see if I can. I'll find it here in a second. But let's go back to the debate real quick.
Oh boy!
So I was reading some of the comments by some people, like what's his name from the Quartering, right? He's been anti-Candace Owens forever. And so, he wasn't going to see any different. But Nick Fuentes, I kind of sympathized with him early this year, late last year, right? But the more I see him just flip-flop on topics, dude's a Fed. Like, I tried to maybe he's not, but there's no excusing away how he acted on January 6th. And everyone else who did nothing even close to what he did spent solitary confinement for 4 years. Because I've posted that video to Telegram a couple times of him actively telling people we're taking over the Capitol. Everybody go in, and nothing ever happened to this dude.
Well, did he have his $500,000 taken by the government before or after that?
I don't know. It doesn't matter because he got it back.
Did he?
Yeah. So he got it back within like a month or something. It was like super short, maybe a couple months. But that's what they do with, when they turn you into an informant, they hold some leverage over you like your money and then give it back to you once you cooperate. But just seeing some of the comments of the people and even some of the people I like,
Such as
like Hillbilly Things, right? She's so pro Candace. And I'm like, but she's crazy.
Candace is.
Yeah, Candace is crazy, not Hillbilly Things.
Yes, just clarifying that.
Yes, I've got nothing against her whatsoever. I like a lot of what she puts out, and I sympathize, and I like her husband.
Her husband's very pro Candace too.
Yeah,
but I do like JD a lot.
Yeah, they're good folks, but I like she.
I'm just trying to get you in trouble, like you always like to get me in trouble.
I mean, look, I can dislike what some people say sometimes, even if I like them.
Yep, 100%.
But I'm pretty sure some of these people, like Candace Owens, could likely abort her child and they still be on her side.
I don't think Hillbilly Things would be on her side, but there are.
I don't think she would. No. But there are a lot of people, like a lot of the Catholics that like her. I don't think would be like that or that gung ho on her. But a lot of the other people who are bought into her cult of personality, like she could do some heinous things, and they would still be on her side.
Yeah,
like there's no objectiveness there whatsoever.
No,
whatever she says is the gospel. I'm like, no, like EMJ. He's really great on like 4 topics, right? But you bring up Vatican II or the liturgy to him, and he's like a Down syndrome kid with a bunch of peanut butter sandwiches. He loves it. He loves it.
Do Down syndrome kids tend to love peanut butter sandwiches? Yes. That's a known thing. I was unaware of this.
Thing. Peanut butter sandwiches and grilled cheese. They love it.
I'm gonna go. You're naked. Close the door. Love you.
Great. We're gonna get off extra.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man. All right, let's see. I wonder if no, I guess he's still going. I was looking to see if TLM Ryan was done, but I think he's still going. I can't. He's funny, man. So I didn't watch all your locals last night. I watched till Brock was on, and then I turned it off.
Brock was the first one.
Yeah,
fair.
I turned it off. I mean, I was busy. It's not that I disliked it. But,
no, I know you were busy.
So, but I'll probably watch the rest of it later.
Did you see
I saw the clone trooper clip that y'all put out.
Do you see the one Chris put out?
He's right. Who?
So Chris, the crash cannon.
Yeah.
So before the clone trooper took the jab at us, Chris was saying, Chris was talking about an interview he did and said something about his channel, and the guy in the clone trooper helmet goes, "Man, I don't even know who you are."
It is funny that Chris gets some like huge guests and he gets like 500 views.
It happens. The whole YouTube algorithm's so screwed up right now.
Which doesn't make sense for y'all because y'all have a good amount of subscribers, but like y'all get like 8,000 views
on most shows. Yeah. Every once in a while we'll get 20, 30,000 on something, but
like normal people, I would think, well, they bought a bunch of subscribers, right? But y'all don't have any money, so that's not y'all.
We did AdSense videos and that helped us get a lot of subscribers. But like, it's just showing that video to more people on YouTube. So it's not like you're buying like bot accounts, right?
Yeah.
But it's somewhat artificial in a sense, but whatever.
Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of them don't make sense, because I'll see like Taylor Marshall's got like almost 2 million subscribers at this point.
Yep.
And he gets like 80,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, that's not even 10%.
No. And our most of ours aren't either, if you think about it.
So I wonder that is that people just subscribing and like never logging on to YouTube again?
Could be.
What it is?
Could be.
I wonder how y'all would do on TikTok.
Some of so we have a TikTok, and it's just been forever since I put a video on there. But like, we had one video get 90,000 views on there.
Yeah,
it was the clip of Kevin James talking about how he fasted for 40 days. So it wasn't even our clip.
It wasn't even y'all. I've finally downloaded TikTok yesterday because my mother-in-law sends me clips from there all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have TikTok. Like, I've really fought against downloading it forever. I was like, I'm tired of like watching it in this like horrible web view of it. I was like, I'll just download it. And it just like starts playing stuff. Like, you open it and it's just automatically playing a video. Like, this is annoying. Like, what if it's a bad video?
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to hear it. You know, like, I can't swipe fast enough. Because you know how my algorithm goes. Like, it's going to be some edgy stuff.
I don't know if TikTok has that same edgy stuff as Instagram.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
No, because it's
owned
by,
what happens
it's owned by Larry Ellison now.
It starts on TikTok though, and then it makes it to Instagram, and then it makes it to
man,
X.
Because TikTok's owned by a Jew now.
As long as it makes some money, they don't care. Just rub them shekels together, man. That's all they care about. They just don't care. Have you seen the update with Sweat to Spain?
No.
It is terrible. Like, it's just shanty towns everywhere. They've got 80,000 immigrants. Just basically, there's no border at this point.
All right.
There's people coming and going whenever they want, and it's turned into a hellhole there right now. And those people, they're probably trying to get out of there as fast as they can.
Yeah.
Like, just uproot their livelihood and get back to mainland Spain, I guess. But it's bad, man. And there's nothing being done about it. Nobody cares. Nothing's being done.
Oh, so frustrating.
It just makes me think, you know, what if that were to happen here? Say that were to happen like San Diego, right across the border from Tijuana.
Yeah.
Would California care? Like, the rest of the United States would care, but the rest of the United States isn't going to enforce anything. Would California care? Probably not.
Probably not.
We'll just let it happen. Like, oh, well, I guess we're part of Mexico now. I guess. I don't know. But then, you know, along Texas, because along the Texas border there, along Mexico, is super blue, because all the Mexicans come across and they just vote along with whoever's going to give them the most stuff. You know, so it's very, very left leaning over there. Which is, now it's pushing into Houston and Dallas and Austin, and those are becoming very blue. Texas will be blue by probably 36.
Yeah, I was thinking mid-30s.
Yeah, probably not by 28. Probably not by 30. It'll still be purple by 32, unless we start doing some major deportation and remigration. It'll be blue by 36.
What about all the taco trucks, Adrian?
Where are we going to get our curry? What are we going to do? They got entire Indian villages being built over there.
You've seen the game, right, where they you zoom out on Google Maps to where it shows all of India, and you drop a street view on a random place to see if there's trash laying on the ground, basically.
No, I haven't.
No, okay, we're playing it right now. Actually, then I played it for about 20 minutes earlier today, and I could not find a place without.
I have a friend who's a realtor, and I was talking to him. I was like, what do you do when a client wants to look at a house that's in a really bad area? He goes, well, legally, I'm not allowed to tell them it's a bad area. He's like, legally, I'm not allowed to tell them it's a high crime area, but I give them hints. I was like, what? How do you give them hints? He goes, I'll put one in the chamber in front of them and walk in with them.
Okay, so here's India.
Okay.
Right, and all the blue lines are where Google Street View has gone. Right.
Okay.
So we'll zoom out, and I will take one of those Street View guys.
Why is there so much Google Street View in India? Like, there's hardly anything in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Or Yemen. Or China.
There's a lot in Oman, though.
A lot in Thailand.
A lot of Thailand and Vietnam. I don't know.
Like,
But
it's
here, so I'm
everywhere.
just I'm closing my eyes.
Okay.
I'm going to drop them somewhere.
Do it.
Let's see here.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this must be a good neighborhood. There's very little trash.
This is actually not terrible. Oh, wait, hold on.
Hold on. I think we spoke
Look
too
at
soon.
that. Look.
Spoke too soon.
Okay, we'll do this, 5 times? See if we can. Okay.
Look at the river. Just make sure the river doesn't have anything.
That's a clean river for India.
That's actually not a bad river. This must be one of those high castes. Oh, what's that red thing right there on the pipe?
Hold on.
The rubble. Turn right. Go to the right.
Oh, look.
You're the right.
Right?
Right.
Oh,
got
there's
the
trash.
right
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's trash. You're right.
There's trash.
But once again, not terrible.
Not terrible. It's really not terrible. I mean, I would want to go there, but if you're Mexican, you can go there and blend in.
Let's go there.
Just like right. Oh yeah, that's not good. I don't see any people. It's a ghost town. How's there a ghost town with a country of 1.5 billion people?
I don't know. So
Hari
we're having
Ramji.
way better luck than I was having earlier today.
Or, yeah.
I couldn't, anywhere I dropped was like a river loaded to the brim with trash.
That's not bad.
Little,
Man, this reminds me so much of
man.
Afghanistan.
really not that bad. Wow. This was not what I was expecting.
Oh, you're near Mumbai now. There's no way that's going to be any good.
Yeah. Trash.
Oh, yeah, there's some trash. Yeah, I'm going to send the link to TLM Ryan.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to DM it to him.
Oh man. What are you laughing at?
I just looking at that comment about Hope again. As your child came in and is getting us thrown in federal prison. So this is my Huxworks Flow 556K.
How do you like
steel.
that? Because I've been thinking of that.
So here's the thing with 556. 556 will never be quiet.
Yeah.
Even with subsonic, right? But the biggest reason I have this is, one, I didn't want titanium because I want flash mitigation. Titanium, really, I mean, sometimes it never goes away, but on some, it may go away in 500,000 rounds. But it has a huge fireball that comes out the front because the way titanium is, it traps the gases a little bit better, and so it just burns them up as it goes out.
Okay.
But I went with stainless steel because to mitigate that. But I don't have any gas in my face with this thing at all.
Nice.
Which is the biggest reason I bought it. Because to be honest with you, my Trash Panda is better sounding than this thing is. There he is.
What's up, guys?
How's it
Hey, Rob.
going?
Against our votes, you decided to do the show anyway.
Well, you hadn't responded until like 2 minutes before my show. I'm like, I gotta go live. Like,
You didn't have
No.
to. We warned you against doing that show.
it turned out okay. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
Well, you did the debate or your show?
Both.
Now question your judgment.
I was actually, I told my audience, I was like, I didn't want to do this, but I thought Adrian and Rob would actually have some takes. And then when I put the poll out, I'm like, oh, they're not watching this, so I've got to.
So we've talked about the assassination before, right? When it comes to the ballistics of the 30-06, man, I've seen 30-06 do some weird stuff. I've seen every round do some really weird stuff, but I've never seen 30-06 do that.
Right.
Especially from that close a distance. Now, like if I've shot deer from 300 yards away, 30-06, and if it hits like if I'm a bad shot or whatever, or it turns at the wrong moment and I hit in the pelvis, it could stay in the body. Whatever.
Yeah.
But we are just basically bags of water with a little bit of bone in us.
Really?
When 30-06 hits us with the hydrostatic capability of the ballistic round, like there's going to be a lot of internal damage with it. Which when I saw him get shot the first time, I saw how much blood came out. I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
Like he's not surviving that whatsoever. No. In fact, I was talking to Chris from our Telegram about it because he's a paramedic in Austin. And I was like, there's no way he's surviving that. And Chris was like, yeah, that's way too much blood. Mm-hmm. They hit either the jugular or or his artery. He's dead. So they're like, oh, he's on his way to the hospital. He's showing signs. Like, no,
don't matter.
I don't believe that whatsoever.
He could have literally been on an operating table when it happened.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I remember Tim Poole said that. He's like, I've got inside information. He's still alive. Yeah. And I mean, what do we know? We were just hopeful. But then 20 minutes later, it's like, no, he's dead.
Yeah, there ain't no way. Yeah. But it's the same thing. Like if you had an aortic dissection, right? If y'all don't know, like the aorta basically is a trunk. It's basically an inch in diameter tube of blood that goes down basically along your spine. If you have a dissection there, which is
basically when it splits open, right?
It just splits open. Like you have an aneurysm, like a weak spot in the wall and it busts open.
Yeah.
If you're not on the table when that happens, you're dead.
Right.
And even if you're on the table, your chances of surviving it are very low. Like we did the pig sticker course when I was in the Marines before I did my first deployment. What the pig sticker course was basically they gave us a pig, and it was they gave like propofol and some other things to keep it sedated, and they would like stab it and shoot it. We'd have to like fix it basically, right? Well, by the end of the day, what they did was they opened up the pig while it's still alive, and they just barely nicked the aorta. It filled up that cavity in like 12 seconds. Filled it up like a bucket of water, right? Just filled the thing up. So same thing with getting shot in the jugular or your carotid artery, right? Because all the jugular is venous, so it's blood returning back to the lungs to be oxygenated through the heart to the lungs, then back out to the body. The carotid artery is basically going from after it goes out from the lungs, it goes out because that's all oxygenated blood, but it's all high pressure. Both of those are. So if you get shot in either of those, you're bleeding out quick.
Yeah.
And so the ballistic side of the gun, it didn't make a lot of sense. Now, the range of the shot, super easy shot.
Yeah.
Like I could teach my 6-year-old daughter to do that in 2 hours.
Yep.
It's not hard at all. So, but my problem with the Tyler Robinson thing, there's a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of stuff, which gives reasonable doubt in my eyes.
Yeah.
But who knows if I've been fed things that they want me to see.
Well, that's what I was hoping that Andrew would, and what is Andrew? He beats up on prostitutes on the whatever podcast, which like good for him. But he's kind of got this lore of being a good debater, and maybe rightfully so. I thought he would come with some facts, and because I haven't followed this. Actually, it's all Rob's fault. I said this on my show because I've seen with Rob and Anthony will get like really hyped about the end of the world, and Rob just kind of like, man, like everybody thought they've predicted the. So I'm like, look, when Rob kind of like goes all Eeyore on us, he's usually right. And Rob tweeted something out like 6 months ago, like, I don't know, it's looking more and more like it might just be Tyler Robinson. I just was like, screw it. I'm not wasting time on this. I have limited capacity. I'm not listening to Candace anymore. I'm also just not tuning in. This was the first time I decided to go back into this topic. And I thought, okay, Andrew Wilson, he's going to bring the goods. We've got more evidence to come out. It was like going in time back 6 months ago. He just repeated the same crap.
Well, and he doesn't have the evidence that that the prosecutors have. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know anything that's not already public.
Right. Well, none of them do, which I thought
Right.
the timing of this was just a little too soon. But and he also he played poorly into it, just strategically. He's on Candace's home turf, literally. He's in her home with George there. Like, you're not gonna trash a woman with her husband right there. So he couldn't get aggressive. And then he just he actually deposed her. He presented all his evidence, which was nothing, and he clearly wasn't prepared because he would have like one zinger, and then as soon as Candace unpacked it, he fell apart, and then he would just move on. He would literally just concede. So then he got in. He's like, "Well, now I want to talk about like some of your more inappropriate comments," and he just gave her the floor by asking her these questions, and and she got her body language was so relaxed. She just sat back, and it was like she was back on her show. So he literally just gave her everything she wanted, and nothing was debunked. I'm like, look, if you want to look for a winner and a loser, I know who didn't lose, and it was Candace, because he didn't. I don't like. You got to know the moment you're in. If your goal is to shut this down, you got to come hard, and you have to discredit her, and you didn't even come close. So, and I came in objectively because I was like, well, Rob from Avoiding Babylon, who is always the voice of reason, said that this is probably a nothing thing. And so
did Candace present any evidence for any of her theories, though?
Well, here's the thing with Candace. She slow rolled a lot of evidence she had because
but none of it ended up being actual evidence.
Well, she exposed TPUSA for being a bunch of rats.
Well, yeah. Everyone should have seen that, though.
Yeah. I don't know what her. I mean, to answer your question, Rob, no, but she showed a lot of motive. She punched tons of holes in the investigation. Like, why was the car that he was shot in detailed and sold? It should have been exhibited. Why is his necklace given back to Erica? That should be in evidence. And it has to be in evidence for years, because even if the guy's guilty, he can appeal it. Why did they pave over the crime scene within like 2 days? So, and Andrew just let her talk. So at the end of the day, they set these two objectives for who had to win the debate. Both had to prove, quote unquote, overwhelming evidence that Tyler was the shooter in Andrew's case, or that he was a patsy in Candace's case. Neither of them won on that.
Yeah.
But then they just went into let's discuss, which of course, because you got to make a show. And Candace came out looking like a rose there, because her goal is to just punch holes in the federal narrative. And she was picking up a lot of steam. And but to answer your question, Rob, no, like she didn't like come out with hardcore evidence that Israel was clearly behind it. But she did show, well, we know for a fact that Charlie was turning against Zionism, and here was his impact on the right. So there's motive, and what they're telling.
Yeah, you could say there's motive by any other state actor, though. Russia would have motive. China would have motive.
Well,
I think
what's sketchy is that TPUSA after his death just like hyped up all the Zionism that he used to hold, and then she slow rolled to expose them as liars on that front.
Yeah.
So that's her strong suit, and her weak suit is like, no, she can't prove. But she had a good response to that. She's like, well, I don't have subpoena power.
Yeah.
So I can only show you like what from the outside, where the motives look, why this is sketchy, which I think is her goal. In a court of law, no, but she's not a court of law, and she kept saying that. So, I mean, Andrew just didn't. I don't know. I was hoping to get Steelmans on both sides, But maybe we'll have to wait for the trial. That was my take.
I've seen, because I don't really care about Andrew Wilson. Like, I'm not pro or against him.
Yeah, same.
But his reputation has taken a hit in the last like month, and this was just like the nail in the coffin, pretty much, for him.
Dude, she got an uppercut on him when she said, "I'm familiar with your debate tactics." And he's like, "Oh, you're familiar with my work?" She's like, "Yeah." "You red pill against feminism?" He's like, "Yes, I do." She's like, "Except when it came to Erica Kirk, who abandoned her children, and you just happened to meet with her a week ago." It was, oh man, it was. She's like, "Now you're all for women working and being a girl boss." It was bad, man. It was so bad.
Yeah, because what I've seen on social media, I don't know, probably the last like 4 months, is you had a lot of people who have come to the position of anti-Zionism, right? Or, like anti-JQ, whatever, right? And then they see things like Nick Fuentes flip-flopping on his positions. And then they see guys like Andrew Wilson being obviously some type of Zionist. And so now, like, you've got like what's her name? Leonardo Joni, the comedian, Dan Bilzerian, James Fishback, and all these guys are pushing back against, which seem to be controlled opposition, right? And Andrew Wilson seems to be within that camp of, I gotta be careful how I say this. He's appearing to me as if he's taking the position of whoever's willing to give him a stepping stool to the next place.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I think that was probably his goal with Candace, was he wanted to get exposed to her crowd, and it backfired on him bad, because he doesn't have the capability. One, he has a chemical dependency on cigarettes, and that obviously affected his ability today. And then, like, buddy, throwing us in, like, you'll be all right.
Wait, hold on, knick-knack.
Yeah, come on, man. What the hell?
I can't get knickknacks in Alabama. If y'all want to smuggle me some knickknacks, I'm down for it.
Well, his foot was twitching now. I mean, a lot of people have just habits that they do, but it seemed to get worse. I was talking on my show, his body language got worse and hers got better. She actually started very poorly because it's like, and I compared it to when I've argued with my wife postpartum. Like, you're arguing about the words, we're arguing in the pre-argument. Like, they were getting to that level. That's what I thought. I was like, dude, I can't do this. But
it's like my kids. They're like, I'm like, hey, go put your plate up. Dad, it's a bowl.
Yes, it was that. She was like arguing the terms of a word. And I'm like, please don't do this for 3 hours. But then it just like a switch flipped and he got worse and she stopped with that. She stopped being annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, he has to smoke. But
and it obviously affected him because he was getting agitated. Because have you ever seen that clip of him where he was on the whatever podcast and the opposing girl, the OF fan, whatever she was, I don't even remember what she was, and she was basically grilling him on the fact that Rachel Wilson has had 3 different husbands, 5 babies from 3 different men, and he lost his crap, right? He lost it. And then there's some other things that have come out about him. Apparently, he claimed to be in the Army, and then he claimed he wasn't. And then Rachel said he was a master gunsmith, and then like there's like all these claims floating out there about him. He just seems to be a guy who's always trying to take advantage of opportunities and says whatever he needs to. Because before this, he really didn't get big till after COVID. Like
that's when I saw him, yeah.
And because like he did some like manual labor job before that, and like during COVID he couldn't work, so he just started watching a bunch of like philosophy podcasts and logic podcasts, and so then he like took it on, which good. Like he's pretty good in some aspects when it comes to arguing, and being able to present his case. And it's the same fault that Jay Dyer has. His emotions get involved, and he starts like making all kinds of accusations that aren't there.
I mean, that's
Like-
been the case since 1054 with the East.
Yes,
They're very emotional people.
very yes.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing is, it's like just because you're a good debater doesn't mean you're a good debater at every topic.
Yeah.
Like nobody could have won this debate unless they, to Rob's point, unless they have prosecutorial evidence. Because you're literally going into the lion's den with a woman who only talks about this for 9 months. You would need at least 9 months to get caught up to speed with her. Because he would go into these ballistics, and she's like, "Well, I've talked to this ballistic expert and this ballistic about like the shirt, and the pager theory."
Yeah.
And Andrew just had no follow up then, because it's like, yeah, I mean, how many? What, he accepted this debate like 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago. How many of the experts that Candace has spoken to can you now? Because you have to then refute those experts. This is a rabbit hole of Wikipedia proportions, man. Like nobody was going to win this.
No.
It was a fool's errand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen at least on Twitter a lot of people calling him out. I mean, rightfully or wrongfully, if you're ever suspected of being inauthentic, you will get called out.
Yeah.
Are we all millennials here?
Yes, sir. Well, no.
Millennial.
Are you?
I'm like on the
sure
I'm on
you're
the
not Gen
edge. I'm
X?
like millennial Gen X. Look,
It's more how
I'm
you
gonna be
behave.
whatever that makes me look best. Okay.
But
Okay.
apparently, we're declaring war on Gen X now.
I heard that Anthony has a thing against Gen X, so I
Yeah, I
might be
don't
Gen
know.
X, so I can go against.
He
him.
is Gen X, right? Somebody told me he was a
No,
millennial.
he's not Gen X.
He's an
millennial.
elder millennial.
Yeah,
Really?
he's like one of the first millennials.
Yep.
That's like bi-generational, though. You can float whichever way you act.
Well, I've seen it. People born between like 80 and 90, they call centennials.
Yeah, I've heard
You're
that.
kind of
too.
between Gen X and what really is millennials. Like we started with analog everything, and then we kind of went into high school with like digital everything.
That's like the OG hipster, where you can't just be like, yes, we're Gen X. Like, no, we're a special centennial.
I showed my kids a tape a couple months ago, and I was like, "How would you what do you think this is?" Like, I don't know, is it like a Lego or something? Like, yeah. And then it's like all this stuff I showed, like a rotary phone. Like they like, how would you dial on this? And they would just like push the button, like it doesn't do anything. Like,
That's
it doesn't,
funny.
yeah.
But no, man, millennials, we are so allergic to inauthenticity. Like,
Millennials is where it started, right? Where millennials, in this case, I'll claim to be a millennial. Where millennials, we started to, because you got to, with millennial, because what like AOL came out in like 95, right? So you could claim to be anybody at that time when you're on like the chat rooms or whatever, up until like 99 when you had Yahoo Chat and all that, right? You could claim to be anybody. So I think that's where it started. Gen Z and Gen Alpha now, like they can smell it like bloodhounds.
it's instant.
Like if you're not really who you say you are, or you're faking it, they can pick it up instantly. Which I think is why we see so many Gen Z and Alpha, especially young men, who are turning towards some type of faith now, because they're like, "Hey, this world's BS."
Yeah.
And it's not what I can buy myself every day that makes me happy. I need something more than that. For example, like in my job, one of the things I do is help with it, like a little bit of outreach. But like I tell some of my companies, I'll call them companies now, that I work with, I'm like, look, you want to attract these younger guys, show them how they can get involved and physically do something. Like I've got one corporation who I'm telling, like, these younger guys, you've got an outreach to a food pantry, tell them about that, and they'll want to get more involved because they want to be involved in things, right? Unlike the boomers who just want to take. Boomers are eternal children, right? It's all about what they can get.
Well,
Not
they're
all of them.
They literally invented the word teenage. That was like a centennial thing. There was no such thing. You were either a child or you were an adult. They invented teenager, just like Gen invented centennial.
Jason Craig has a really good talk on that, actually. When I did that interview with Jason Craig last week on Avoiding Babylon, I've heard he gave a talk about the invention. It's actually a Marxist term. Is where
Doesn't surprise me.
And it was to basically delineate that middle adolescent period, to try and make it seem like they're more adult than they are, so they can make decisions for themselves and all that. But to try and separate them from their parents, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the boot. Man.
Well, and boomers fall for all the inauthenticity. Where it's like, look, our generation, man, we lived through Monte Teo. We know what can happen, man.
Look, catfishing was invented while I was in high school. And I was catfished a couple times, and it did not work out well whatsoever.
I'm so glad AI did not exist back then.
That's another. So that is another feather in the cap of Generation Alpha, because they're in the point now where they can't believe anything online.
Yeah.
At this point, AI is so good that you just can't count the number of fingers on a hand anymore. Like, AI has gotten past that, right? That was only like a year ago. We were like, oh, the hands look weird. It's AI. Now it's like, you can't tell. And
Brian Holdsworth really does look like a hobbit in those
he does.
taffy videos.
There's a turkey in Moria.
That's real. And boomers, man, AI jacks boomers up.
Oh,
man.
so bad.
Dude,
They fall for it all the time.
Facebook boomers with AI, that's got to be what the apocalypse is referring to.
or that's hell, right?
The man of perdition is just like a
just
taffy generated AI.
You just get continuous Facebook messages from your mom asking if this is real or not.
Is
Just
this real?
over
Is this real?
and over and over.
I saw a video of Trump flying through the air. Is that real?
Oh, we finally have flying cars.
Yeah, Mom.
Yeah, Mom, the video of raccoons doing flips on the trampoline. Yeah, Mom, that's real.
But like, we're getting to the point now where you can't believe anything unless you see it in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that's kind of healthy.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think what will happen is what you'll start seeing is a lot of people pushing back from social media, pushing back from digital time, basically spending their time on some type of digital. And I'll tell you one thing I've seen over really the last 6 months is, and this is like trivial. It seems trivial, but it matters. More people carrying cash. They're not willing to put things on a card or to use a card for things because the amount of fraud that happens every time you swipe your card at a Jeep convenience store, right? They're carrying cash for everything now, which goes against like them trying to get rid of cash by making everything super easy with crypto and just swiping your card and Venmo and all that.
The Amish aren't going to like that.
No, they're not. But I think we're starting.
Real Amish will, but
yeah.
Did you see the Amish are going after the flock cameras?
The real ones or the fake ones? Fake Amish.
Oh, real Amish. The real Amish.
Oh, good.
We're on X now. You can say Jews.
Yeah.
The good Amish. Well,
Yeah.
what are they doing?
Absolute pacifism, and yet they're like, you know what? We got to go after the flock cameras.
What's the whole deal with I don't get involved in politics much ever since I became Catholic, but I'm like, flock camera is coming across my timeline a lot. Like, what's the controversy?
Oh,
we did an entire show on it.
Oh, all right.
So let me give you
rehash. I'll go rewatch.
Let me give you a 30-second rundown.
Yeah.
Basically, they're putting flock cameras everywhere as a digital gulag. The flock cameras really aren't even the issue, because the problem with flock cameras is there's not enough bandwidth for them to actually do what they need to do. So
originally,
they use AI.
They're automatic license plate reader, ALPR.
Right.
But like Adrian said, they're gathering all the data on the license plates they're reading, right? And they're figuring out habits and patterns for what cars are going where, when they're going, things like that. And what's even worse is other companies are making other items to go on these flock cameras that will, the sniffers basically, they'll gather in any electronic transmissions from devices in those cars, so cell phones, the car GPS signals themselves, things like that. And so they'll start to associate certain devices with certain vehicles and then they'll track that device in other locations with other vehicles, so they can actually, using AI, start to figure out who's associating with who, what their patterns are for when they're traveling, where they're traveling to, who they associate when they're
So I'm
traveling.
screwed talking to you guys now.
Well, you were without flock cameras anyways, but
Your issue is you associate with Stephen Cox. That's your issue.
we had
yeah,
we had a show 2 days ago, and Taffy made a video of him while we were streaming and put it out because Steven had no idea about the war on beauty and the turkey, and he's like, "Can you explain this to me?" I'm like,
not really,
not really, Steven, but it's not real.
That's like me trying to explain like a meme to my wife. Like, look, I've got to explain like 7 years worth of memes to get you to this point. It's just don't worry about it.
They're all inside jokes cooked up in group chats.
But so this is a map of all the ALPR devices, all the license plate readers, Flock and others. And so just to give you an idea, so this is generally speaking where I live. So there is a Flock camera operated by the St. Louis County Sheriff's Department on this little back road, and it shows you where it's pointing. But I mean, so I saw online on Twitter the other day, we can zoom into Manhattan here.
Go to the Upper West Side.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
There's a weird devoid area
right
there.
here. No flock cameras, except see the literal line of flock cameras on the borders. Like, you cannot get in or out without them knowing. But all the rich celebrities and Jews that live in here, they won't know what you're doing inside.
And keep in mind, Flock is a private company. Yeah. So they get around the Fourth Amendment and the police buys access to it. Right. So if the police are buying access to it, the Jews are buying access to it too.
So now, like, this one is I don't know. It's operated. I don't know who. Can't see that. New York City Department of Transportation. But there are some that are operated only by a private company. And like Adrian said, that private company will sell the data to a police department, and then the police department doesn't need a warrant.
Right, because you're not signing up for, like, I accept the privacy policy of the flock cameras. You're just driving.
You're just driving by there. And
there was go ahead.
Rob, are you going to get a 30-06 and take care of that one?
I have a 30-06.
You just need birdshot and a nice 20-inch shotgun. You'll be fine.
But so like the only one north of where I'm at in the whole state is in International Falls, little border town, and Adrian and I already went over this. But so I pulled up this spot on Google Maps. And this is like on a public sidewalk that goes to an alley back here. And it's pointed at this building. And we looked up what that building is. That building is the DMV for basically most of northern Minnesota. So anyone in like I said, north of where I'm at has to go there to get their tabs renewed, get their license plates renewed. I mean, this building actually gives out new license plates to a lot of people. So they're making sure they're catching your license plate that you just got renewed.
Yep. The vice president of Flock has only ever accessed one camera ever. He's the vice president. And it was a camera that was pointed towards a children's gymnastics area. Like, it's not pointed at license plate readers. It's not pointed at a road. It's literally pointed at an area where only children go. There's been a lot of reports of people going to their gun range, and there's a Flock camera pointed at their gun range, not at the road going by the gun range, at their gun range as people go in and out of the gun range. Like, I haven't checked my gun range yet. I'm gonna go check it probably next week, but like, I've got land. Like, if I don't go to the gun range anymore, oh well. Right, I've got land. I can go shoot.
How easy would like for the Amish? Like, how easy is this to take out? Like,
super easy.
Yeah.
Look, all we gotta do is make sure all the meth heads know there's about $300 worth of gold and about $100 worth of copper in these things. and then they'll all be taken down.
Yeah. Dude, my church has copper, like, well, now it has a bunch of copper, but it had like copper spouts, and they were getting pulled off by homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to let them know.
Well, here's another issue: is a lot of these municipalities, like for example, I got to go out to Chandler, Arizona next month. Chandler, I saw a report about Chandler, Arizona, where they just ruled in their city council to get rid of their flock contract. Like they're not going to use flock anymore. That's because they're switching to a company called Axon. Axon is a company that puts drone bases on top of buildings and uses drones instead of flock. So they'll float out drones over areas and do the same thing flock was doing.
That is so dystopian, man.
They are building the digital gulag around us. But you want to hear another conspiracy theory? Do you remember cash for clunkers?
Yeah.
So cash for clunkers, for those of y'all that don't know, there are the 7 people who are watching the show. Cash for Clunkers was a program back in like 2008 or so where you could turn in your vehicle no matter what, and you would get like $4,000 for it, right? Wherever it was to trade into a new vehicle.
Yeah, the government would reimburse dealerships for these.
Right.
It was like I remember this was like a throwback to like the Great Depression ABC soup programs, and they were like it was Obama's like homage to that, and it didn't do shit.
So millions of roadworthy vehicles were turned in for people to get new vehicles, right? Now, you can't find a used vehicle that's reliable for less than $10,000.
Yeah,
right.
It's just not, unless you like just happen to find somebody who had like a 2004 Taurus that has 12,000 miles on it that's sat in a garage forever. And you just need new tires and a new battery. Like outside of that, it's hard to find a used car for less than $10,000. Now they're passing all these laws where a car has to have inward-facing cameras, has to have GPS on it, it has to have a kill switch and all this, right? And so they're transitioning us to be it only in vehicles where the government can control it. Because
Minority Report.
Driving is a privilege in this country. You don't have a right to drive on state-provided roads or federally provided roads like the interstates, right? On top of that, hundreds of junkyards have caught fire in the last like 6 years. Dude,
War on Beauty, I only know this because of Taffy, but War on Beauty had an entire episode of this.
So they're basically forcing us in a position where the only cars we can drive are cars that are basically surveillance vehicles on us. So anybody you know who drives a Tesla, they're the first ones to do this.
Yeah.
They got cameras all over that thing. And right now, like, oh, it'll show you when somebody like vandalizes your car because we keep seeing it. So they're trying to give you a reason why you should have it, right? But now people are buying like 2027 Tundras, and there's like 4 cameras just facing you as a driver. And if you like close your eyes for more than 10 seconds, it alerts the police.
If I ever in that position, I'm just ripping those suckers out.
Well, then it kills your car, and you can't drive it.
You gotta find a good mechanic.
Well, and that's what it is. Like, so there's nothing digital and electronic that does not have a vulnerability where you can get past it.
Right.
And
you just gotta know.
You gotta know somebody that knows how to do it. Right. This is where the hubris of the federal government is. They think they are the smartest people in the room all the time, and they're just theater kids, right? With power. That's all they are. And so they don't understand that people can outsmart them. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to see like black market cars all over the place.
Right.
And that's why, like, I'm looking to buy a diesel truck just because I need one for the farm because I need to be able to haul stuff. But I want something that was built prior to DEF being required. I don't know if you know what DEF is.
What year
DEF
was it?
2014 was the first year of DEF.
Dang it! I have a 2013 I have a 2015 Tundra.
Well, it's not diesel.
It's only diesel. It's
only diesel. So all DEF is it's supposed to limit the emissions. DEF fluid is just pig urine.
It's urea. It smells disgusting.
It's terrible. But like if you get below a certain level, like your governor kicks in, you can't drive faster than like 25 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you get anything earlier than 2013 on a diesel, you don't have to worry about it. So I'm looking for like an earlier 2013.
Well,
Now, like,
I think
I
the
might
death
wanna go, like-
regulations were gotten rid of by Trump, though.
rivet, like you still have to buy DEF on all these vehicles.
Yeah.
So what
It's
is
the same thing.
what's the status on the guns? Am I good to go? Silent.
I don't know what state are you in?
Tennessee.
I think
Let's see
Tennessee's
if
good to go.
Tennessee's a free state.
One of the few.
We pulled up a map earlier. What's a free? I think Tennessee was one of them.
Probably suppressor and I don't know what else.
So when it comes to the NFA that just passed, right? So you need to be a member of GOA. You should be a member of GOA anyway, Gun Owners of America, because the plaintiffs, it was ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, current members and future members.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you're a member of GOA, it's $25 a year. You're part of the injunction.
Awesome.
But supposedly, and you're the attorney, so I'm gonna let you parse this better. But per the injunction, if you're a member of GOA or you're a customer of Palmetto State or a customer of Silencer Shop, you are free of the NFA's requirements for a Form 4 for these restricted items. So, for example, here in Alabama, if I wanted to SBR my rifle, right, take the pistol brace off and put a stock on it, I can now without having to pay. I don't have to pay the
Without
stamp,
registering it, and
without registering it, pay the stamp or anything.
So basically,
Just-
most of the fancy stuff now is just good to go if you're in the correct state.
Yeah, the issue that we're running into right now, there's no guidance coming out from the ATF. About
Yeah,
what
so
to do.
like all the gun shops are probably calling their lawyers and like, what do we do?
And they're basically just telling them status quo.
because like what is the for instance, what's the legal requirement to prove that someone
Right.
is
Right.
affected as a plaintiff in this thing and all that stuff?
Because like GOA gives you a card when you join them, right? They'll send you
Yeah.
a card, so that should be sufficient for that. But the problem because I was talking about earlier in the show that we talked about. I've talked to a few attorney friends of mine here in the state, and they're basically just like, until we have guidance from the ATF, most local gun shops are going to be scared to do anything outside of what they've already been doing.
Yeah.
The problem is because of the injunction, the ATF isn't approving any Form 4s because the injunction specifically took that away from them for these specific plaintiffs. So they're not doing it for anybody. So if you're in the process of trying to get a suppressor right now and you're waiting on your Form 4 to be approved, well, you're in limbo until the whatever guidance comes out. But if you, like I said, if you have a AR pistol and you want to throw a stock on that thing and you're in a free state, check with your state laws just to make sure, but you should be okay.
You could also make your own suppressor if you wanted.
And you could print your own suppressor.
How do you do that, Rob?
Is this entrapment?
No.
Are you trying to entrap me here? I mean, I've never done it, but there's the whole, I don't know if it's an urban legend, but taking an oil filter, putting a thread adapter on it, and drilling a hole on the other side.
You don't even need a thread adapter on most oil filters.
Really? What
for a 5.56? It's usually half.
It's a half-inch thread.
Yep.
Okay.
I need to get a suppressor for my home defense is just a 9mm, but I'm like, dude, that's gonna be so loud in my house if it's
what
pistol
sort
or
of
is it
pistol?
Well, I have a Hellcat right now with an extended mag. I'm gonna upgrade to a Glock 19 for my home
On
defense.
either one of those, just keep in mind you'll need a Nielsen device with any suppressor.
Okay, Nielsen.
Unless you get
We
the
take notes here.
Unless
What is a Nielsen device? I'm just curious.
So the problem with pistols is there's not enough powder to reciprocate enough to reload the next round when you use a suppressor. So
because a lot of that
Nielsen
gas
device-
is getting trapped, so it's not.
Yeah.
So it won't re-rack.
Right, because there's no gas port or anything on a 9mm.
That Luigi Mangione
Yeah.
healthcare. The reason why in the video you see him, it looks like he's having a malfunction. He's having to re-rack his slide with every shot because he didn't have his 3D printed suppressor didn't have a Nielsen device.
What's the deal with all the like spy movies where they've got these suppressors on them? And is that just Hollywood?
That's just Hollywood.
Really? Wow.
Unless it's a 22. 22s are pretty quiet.
But they'll
Yeah,
they'll rack.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
if you get a Nielsen device, that will do it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's still
I was
not
gonna-
super
okay.
solid though.
No.
But if you get there, so there's a
So
suppressor
it's not reliable.
there's a suppressor out there called a Hush Puppy,
Mhm.
and it doesn't use a traditional baffle system. It has like a membrane at the end that you can replace, and you can get like 20 rounds out of it super quiet. Then after that, you got to replace the membrane, but you're not going to shoot 20 rounds at somebody in your house. But it doesn't need a Nielsen device because of the way it's designed. There are some pistols that do not need a Nielsen device either.
Beretta
So it
92.
just depends.
If I've got a Glock, what I'm hearing is I just need to get a Nielsen device. But did I hear you guys say it's less reliable then?
No, not with the Nielsen device.
Okay.
Should be
Yeah.
fine.
The
So
Nielsen
Glock,
device should be
Nielsen, suppressor, I'm good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we just moved into a new home and I've had to reconfigure the whole self-defense thing. And can I ask you guys a question? Because I had a really scary moment the other night. I heard someone in my house,
Oof.
and I've shifted the. I don't want to say this. Nobody was really watching, but I shifted where the handgun is.
Okay.
And I knew this was vulnerable.
That's a subtle dig.
I need a new handgun that's by my bedside, but I did not have it. So I retreat into the closet and I get the AR. But it doesn't have a light on it.
Okay.
Now I'd only use the light to flash. I'm not gonna be stupid as hell to like just keep it on, then I'm just gonna get taken out. And I didn't rack it because, and this is something like, I need to practice more and think through more, obviously, because it's going to make a loud sound. The way the bedroom was configured, it's a very odd setup, but I wasn't, I was in a defensive position, probably pretty good, but I didn't want to rack it because I don't want to give away my position. Now, there's a couple of issues with that. One is the amount of time if something does pop out. But then anyways, what ended up happening was my daughter. Okay. And then it freaked the shit out of me, right? Sorry, yep. I don't know how you guys are on cursing on this show, but
you're fine.
Like, I was like, I mean, look, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to point at anything I'm not ready to kill, and I'm going to get good trigger discipline. But the whole sequence made me realize I need to think through some things. One, I've got to, I mean, look, the way the corners are in my house, an AR is completely unnecessary. A handgun is perfectly fine. Everything's within 10 feet. So I need to upgrade that.
Okay.
I'm totally comfortable rack. I don't know why, for some reason, I just didn't want to rack the AR. It was probably stupid. I should have racked. And then same with any handgun. But the whole thing with the kids freaks the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Especially when they get older and they may look like, and that's why I'm like, okay, I also need light on almost anything I'm going to grab for home defense because I got to ID first.
Yep.
Because as they get older, a shadow or, an in-law, especially my boomer parents, as they get older and start wandering around like zombies.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you can't just shoot at a silhouette. So I don't know. What are your guys' takes on that? It really freaked me out. And I realized I was a little unprepared, even though I had given mental thought to it. Once we moved, everything, my setup at the old place was perfect. But now I'm like, what are your guys' takes on that?
You want this, Rob?
Not sure where to start. Your AR was.
I would start. You do need a light.
Yeah,
you need a light on everything, right? Like this is my Glock 19. It has a TLRX 7X.
I love how you guys are like Han Solo. You just both pop them out.
But well, that's why we're on X, so we can actually do this.
Oh, okay.
Right? So and I've got a light on everything everything I carry.
So I have a light. I have a light on my Springfield, which what used to be on my bedside had the extended, which was perfect because I can flex to home defense. I had the light.
Yep.
So I definitely agree with the light. I got to get the light. But what about like the racking? And I think I need to rack, but like
one, you always need if it's a pistol, you always need one in the chamber.
Yeah.
Right, because you're going to be racking for the rest of your life if you don't have one in the chamber. You always need, and as far as your kids, you need a safe or something that they can't get into that puts in. A super simple one is a company called Stopbox.
I've got
It's
saved.
not it's not electronic whatsoever, so you don't have to worry about the battery going out. I have one at my office and I have one at the house, and it keeps the kids from being able to get into it.
Yep,
while their kids are young, right now, if you just keep it out of the reach, like sometimes I can just keep it on top of the fridge. Right.
My wife doesn't even have the arm strength to chamber any of my. So,
but as they get older, my kids now, like my youngest is 6.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 4 kids between the ages of 6 and 13. And my kids now know, one, they know how to rack this thing if they need to and clear it because I've taught them.
Right.
They also know not to touch it.
Yeah.
Right. And they know, all the safety rules. Like my boy has a BB gun, and before he goes out, he has to tell me all the safety rules before he goes out.
Mm-hmm.
BB gun, right? Every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about training for your kids and getting them to understand this is dangerous, but it's also a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? You just need proper training on it. But while if your kid's like 2,
My oldest,
they're never going to get that. Yeah. So just keep it out of their reach or keep it in a safe.
Was the AR in a safe?
yes, everything's in a safe.
Then I would just keep the AR loaded and chambered.
Yeah.
If it's something you think you might end up using in home defense, and if it's secured, then there's no reason.
Then you just bypass the racking question by
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So long as you're safe and secure. Yeah.
If it's not in a safe, if you just keep one out of the chamber, your kids can't do it. They're not strong enough to do it, and they don't know how to use the safety or anything, right? So it's not that big of a deal at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it was more
the
the fear of my child, because I had the gun pointed at the door, and she came through the flag zone. I lifted it, but it was one of the worst feelings ever.
Well, even if it had been chambered, right? What?
Well, that was the problem. Is I was like, well, if this had been a person, I would have had to chamber it, and he could have gotten me. So I failed there. And then the fact that I flagged my daughter, even with an unchambered, it just was a bad feeling. I was like,
here's the thing when it comes to flagging. When the more confidence and the more training you have, and especially the more advanced training you do, you're going to flag people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to happen, right? You have to have the confidence knowing that you've got your finger straight off the trigger, your safety on.
Right.
You do it all the time. Like when I did a lot of training in the Marines, and then in fact, I did better training when I got out of the Marines than I did in the Marines. I had a Green Beret who I used to do a lot of training with in Georgia when I got out of the Marines. And when you're doing some of this stuff, man, you can't get around it.
Right.
You're going to flag people, right? You just have to understand, like, you have the discipline not to have your finger on the trigger and that you identify the target before you do anything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, if you don't have the confidence for that, and that's fine, right? If you don't have the confidence comes with experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more you train, because I'm going to encourage you, go get training, go pay for training, go pay for training for people who know what they're doing. And if you want to send them to me, like, hey, I'll be happy to look at them for you. Stay away from any NRA trainers, first of all. But the more training you get, the more confident you'll get. Like in my house, I don't keep one in the chamber of my rifle right now. And there's a reason. The reason for that mostly is because my kids are in my room all the time, and they can't do it. They're not strong enough to do it. But 2, my bedroom is almost like a black hole of sound. You can't hear anything going on in my room from the rest of the house.
I see. So you say, you wouldn't alert anyone.
So but also my rifle in my house that I would use is a 300 blackout suppressed.
Mm.
So if I needed to use it, like, the kids aren't even going to wake up. They're not going to hear it.
It's just blood on the floor. Like,
There's
just take care of the problem.
everywhere. But some other enablers I have, like I have thermals, I have nods.
Yeah.
So, and I've trained with them. So even if you didn't, right? Even if I just had a 300 blackout suppressed with a light on it, like, when it comes to your home, you want to make it as hard as for somebody to see you as possible.
Right. So
the lower you can get, the better. If you could be laying on the ground and somebody's coming through the door, pop them in their tee box.
My wife's already like, why did you move like our digital calendar? I'm like, everything inside is dark, everything outside is light.
Mhm.
So, all right. So it sounds like what I need to make a couple adjustments. It's if you got a good safe, which I do, put one in the chamber, bypass that, get some comfortable training because flagging will happen, and get a light on. The only reason the AR didn't have a light is because I've never used it for home defense. I always had the pistol. So, and then
That window behind you, does that go to a back porch?
No, it's the driveway.
So there's you
It's the
need to
side
get
of the
some
house.
you need to get some blackout film on it or something
So they can't see in.
so they can't see in, or get some blinds and have them angled down. Right, you
Okay.
don't want to have them angled up because they can see through it easier. But
Oh well, right now
you can
I'm a sitting duck right now. Yeah, lights on.
Yeah, it'd be real bad for you right now.
Yeah. No, I've got to work out the geography of the house right now.
Did you move to an area that's a little bit higher crime?
Depends on the type of crime. It's not statistically significant enough that I need to be worried. It's more that it's a bigger house. I don't have enough guns to spread out, or concealment, or safes, or so there's vulnerabilities in where I can move to access a defense weapon. That's my biggest problem. So I'm currently, because I just used to sleep next to one of the vault safes.
Voltex, yeah.
Yep, easy access. I got the code in there. It's got a power reserve, so even if the power goes out, and it was always, I had 17 rounds in. So
Do you have any cameras on the outside of your house?
No.
I would look into getting some cameras put out outside, especially some motion detecting cameras, and they don't have to be Ring cameras. You can get hardwired ones.
Okay.
They go to and that still have access to an app, but you want cameras facing all avenues of approach, right? So you do it at the corner of your house, and it looks at like all the windows along the back and the back door, right? So you'll get alerted anytime someone's there. Something going from the front door, something that can see all the windows, right? Because at my property, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras, and I probably should have 2 more.
See, I take the opposite approach in case I do something slightly wrong in the defense.
There's no evidence.
But
yeah. Sure, why has your hard drive been wiped for the camera system? Don't worry about that.
But I have it because I live pretty remote, and if someone's on my property, they're here.
Right. Yeah, you need more distance view.
Right.
What's
so
your,
I need to be.
If either of you, I know you're blackout, but Rob, what's your you only have one home defense gun. What's your go-to?
Oh man, that's tough.
Rob's gonna spend so much time picking it. It's like a woman trying to pick out her outfit.
It is.
The criminal has already stolen all the goods by the time he selects one.
You're already dead.
I know. Well,
what's the one that is next to you? Isn't there
right now? I have 5 of them next to me.
Okay.
But in our bedroom, I have a Voltex safe as well with my shadow systems, MR920 in there, and that's got a light and optic on it, and it's always loaded and chambered. So if it's middle, block. Yeah. So I have cleared the house in the middle of the night with that one a couple times.
Okay.
Once also because of children, but I mean, if I had time, or something, I would have a safe downstairs with an AR that's chambered as well. So I would probably just go to that.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than waking up at 3 a.m. and you have a 5-year-old staring at you right next to your bed. I don't know if y'all know how many times I've almost punched my kids. Look up! Oh, you're one of mine.
I don't know, Adrian, how much credence you get, because you see these guys who go on the Sean Ryan podcast and Joe Rogan, and you don't know is this a CIA plant or whatnot, but the sheriff of Baghdad, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but I don't know if he's legit or not, but I've seen some of his home defense advice, and it seems to check out. And he was like, look,
he's got some good advice. There's some things I would ignore on him. Like he's not a fan of red dots on a pistol, right? But he's also a product of an earlier generation before there were red dots, right? So like whatever. He's used to shooting with iron sights all the time. He's good with that. Fine.
You can tell he's a lot more gruff when it comes to But his advice was keep a pistol by your bedside and then retreat to something more lethal if you have time.
Well, the whole purpose of my pistol is to get to my rifle.
Right.
Yeah, because one, my pistol only has 15 rounds in it, or 18 if I have an extended mag. But my rifle is going to be way better to defend my family. It has way more better bullet. It has better ballistics, way more rounds. I can see farther with it. It's suppressed, which is it has a lot to it as well. But and that's what that's one thing I would agree. Now, would I allow him around my wife? Absolutely not.
Would you what?
But I would not allow him around my wife. But other than that, like if I needed somebody to go to war with me, I'm picking that guy first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got to think about. I think I need one of those SMG types, MP5 or equivalent.
Get the Kuna.
Yeah, get the Springfield Kuna.
That's what I was looking at.
There's a company who makes a with a super safety in it, so basically it comes full auto if you want it. Force reset trigger in it. Put a suppressor on it, and it's like a poor man's MP5.
Right. Yeah.
That's my next big purchase. Is I want to get a Kuna with the super safety loader on it and throw a can on it. I'll just throw
looks like Rob has firsthand experience here.
Rob has a Kuna
in an MP5. Yeah, this is my Kuna.
Nice.
It is a sweet shooting little gunner.
I mean, I watched enough reviews on it. I'm like, look, like if they can't say anything bad about it, really,
they're
like, well, if you drop it really hard, I'm like, it's gonna sit in my closet safe. I'm not going to war with it, man. Like I'm shooting like a burglar once every 50 years, maybe, if I'm unlucky.
If that.
I actually prefer it a little bit over. Now I have the SP5K, MP5K. So,
well, the MP5s are just more expensive too.
I was going to say this is like a third of the price of that, and I actually prefer shooting this thing.
The MP5s are very battle proven.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is why they're and it's HK, which is just super expensive anyway. Like HK makes a phenomenal AR, but you're going to pay
416. Yeah,
you're going to pay for it, but it's phenomenal. Like it's you don't have to worry about a thing on that rifle, and it'll last you. You'll pass it down to your grandkids, but you're paying for it, right? It just with most firearms, especially with accessories, there are diminishing returns on how much you pay for something, right? Like for example, like I don't buy Surefire anything anymore. It's just not worth the money.
Right.
I can buy 3 Streamlights for 1 Surefire, and you're really just paying extra money for Surefire because it's battle. We used it in Afghanistan, we used it in Iraq. It's basically bomb proof, but you're paying 3 times the price for 10% better. Right? It's not that much better. Dude, Glock is not the best handgun out there, but that thing's going to fire every time you pull the trigger.
Right.
Whereas if you buy like a 320, it's going to fire even when you don't pull the trigger.
Dude, trust me, I got into the horrible rabbit hole of men's watches recently. And boy, like the diminishing return ceiling that you hit is wild. Like tens of thousands beyond that. And you like you can get all this and it's like, but it's
we got my community in the Marine Corps, we're a very small community of the job that I did. And we're looking into getting a custom watch for our community. So like all the guys who've gotten out, some of the guys who are in, we're looking at we're looking at 3 companies. We're looking at Breitling, Omega, and Sengen, because they do custom watches.
Okay.
So Sangin is a district in Afghanistan. It was founded by some Marines who came back from Afghanistan and started. They built all their own watches. It's
So
all
they're
made
like a
American.
micro brand, yeah.
Yeah, and they don't farm it out to China like a lot of these other countries, right?
That's awesome.
And they make their own, right? But the difference is the Sangin's like it's gonna be between $1,600-$1,800 for the watch, or Omega and Breitling are gonna be like $4,000 to $5,000.
Yeah,
right. And I'm like, one, if I'm paying $4,000 to $5,000, I'm getting a Rolex. But two, like,
not much of one.
Nah, you're not getting a Rolex for that, man.
I'm one.
Good day, Justin.
I'm one to also like. I'm pretty hard on my watches.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to spend $5,000 on a watch that I might break in a year because I live on a farm. And I have kids. Right.
You might want to get a Citizen Eco Drive for like $600.
I have a couple Citizen Eco Drives actually, and I've broken 3 of them. But that like it would just be like a dress watch, pretty much.
Right.
But even when it comes to like most of these watches are built in Vietnam, Thailand, and China. Almost, even if you get one with Swiss internals, it's built in Vietnam, Thailand, or China.
The other 40%.
So you're paying $5,000 for a $30 watch.
All my research showed that after $3,000, you're usually paying brand. Like, I would say between Breitling and Omega is worth even the extra $1,000 because I don't think Breitling's very good right now. But the whole Afghanistan story and the price, I don't know. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Like, because it's memorable then. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Longines is like the best, and Hamilton. Because Rob, I remember you mentioned you'd had a couple Hamiltons.
I have some Hamiltons. I just got a Formex. That's my newest one.
Those are the 2 brands that, because like I just got addicted to watching the YouTube videos. I have watched the ratio of YouTube videos on watches to watches I've actually purchased is so skewed. But the brands that come up the most as like best pound for dollar is Longines and Hamilton. Like across all, like, because you got different influencers, and
yeah,
it's like, dude, when you're hearing the same thing from like 20 different people, probably true, unless there's a giant conspiracy theory with Hamilton to like pay them off. But Omega to me is the goal, though. Like, even though you're losing value, the Omega Seamaster is such a gorgeous watch. Those James Bond ones he wore, like, whew, like maybe one day.
The last watch I got was by a company called Outcast, and it's a rangefinder.
I was gonna say, is that the ballistic watch?
No way.
It's so cool. Like
You point it.
Let's see if I can find it. But it will. No, it's not. It's more mechanical range. Let me see if I can find it. But a buddy of mine sent it to me. Let's see if I can find it.
A bunch of people on Twitter just got the most recent shit.
So if you do long range shooting, here it is. Share my screen with you real quick. I always forget I have to come back and do it. All right, so it's got a lot of range finding capabilities to it. So it's got mils, MOAs, windage, and all that. So you basically dial the bezel to dial in to whatever your windage is and everything. But it's awesome. I can dress like it's nice enough to where I can wear it to work. But if I want to go to the range after work, I don't have to change my watch, because I've got a what is it, a Garmin something, and it's got like a ballistic tactical app on it and stuff. It's like it's like a computer watch type or whatever. And it's fine, it's mostly what I wear when I'm at work. But I have my wife bought me a Citizen Eco Drive like 6 years ago for Christmas, and my only issue with it is because I don't like to buy expensive watches because they break. Yeah, I'll hit them against something or whatever, and they'll break. But once my kids are out of the house, maybe I'll buy one. But she bought me a Citizen, and my only issue is the illumination on the hands is garbage. Like it has to sit out in the sun for like 3 days to even, pick up a little bit. But this thing, man, I had in front of like my alarm light for like 5 seconds, and the thing was glowing like the sun.
The loom is good. Yeah. That's why I like dive watches because the loom's good, but I also, because I bill hours, like just setting the bezel.
Yeah.
And then I can just, that was the thing. I had an Apple Watch, and the Apple Watch does so much.
Yeah.
But the only thing I ever did was track my billables. And I'm like, a freaking dive watch looks way classier. I can do the same thing.
Well, and no one's passing down an Apple Watch to their kids.
No.
Yeah.
Those things are obsolete in like 5 years.
Right.
Right. And not only that, but that thing's tracking you everywhere. Like my phone's already tracking me. Like I don't need my watch tracking me too.
Trust me, if the government ever comes after me, like all the electronics are just gone. I'll shove that. I'll tie it to my dog and let him go loose. Have the feds running around. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I don't buy, other than my Garmin, which I only got it because and you can put it on, they call it night mode, where it disconnects from everything, and it's just, but it's also got a solar capability to it, so it'll last forever. Like I've got a Casio watch that does that. And like I've never gotten a new battery in it, and I've had that thing for 20 years almost at this point.
Navy SEAL
never had to get a new battery.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly the SEALs, that's all they need. But
I mean, like I've got a watch, I've got an old Seiko watch that my great uncle gave me, and he bought in like the 60s. Right. And like I still have it. I'm gonna give it to my son.
Yeah.
He's old enough and he can take care of something like that.
So when I obviously I got into this, I bought a few because I could, and I was like super excited. And then I realized this is kind of weird because I bought this watch just because I liked it. And the thing I learned was you have to tie the watch, but even if it's just a $300 Timex or whatever, you should tie your watch purchase to a memorable event. And I found something really cool to do because I had my grandpa just passed, and he always wore a watch. And so I looked it up in, my iPhotos, and I identified it. And then eBay, you can find anything on eBay.
Yep.
Bought the exact watch. So now it's like anytime a loved one passes, even if they never wore a watch, like I know one that maybe they wore 20 years ago, and I'll just buy something that's similar or reminds me of them. That or like a major promotion or life event.
Buy a watch for every child.
There you go.
Every birth.
And then you could pass it on to them. It's a way, even if you have $10,000 to spend, it's a way better way to do things than just, I bought like 3 watches this month because I liked them. It's like,
yeah.
That's going to end up in the donation pile in 10 years.
I did that with a rosary with my son. The day he was born, I bought a rosary.
That's awesome.
Every rosary I prayed until he hit first communion was with that rosary, and then I gave it to him for his first communion.
That's awesome.
Every rosary I prayed for was for him. So when he hit his first communion, and I gave it to him, like, look, I've had this blessed. And my kid, like my oldest right now, she was confirmed by Cardinal Burke about a couple of years ago.
Nice.
And we, that may happen again with my other 2, my next 2. But he knows like and the same thing with my daughter. I bought her a rosary 3 years before her first communion, 3 years. And I prayed with it every day until it was for her first communion. I gave it to her. So now all my kids know, like, this is special. This is something important. My son has a rosary now that I Roman Catholic gear, and it was like one of the old World War I ones, but it's gold plated, and I got them for like a steal, man. I got them for like $20. They're usually like $80, $90 or whatever, and because they were trying to get rid of them. And I had started a Troops of St. George here in Birmingham, and I had a contest for all the boys in the troop, and for whoever came up with the best prayer for that we would start every troop meeting with. And it was blind. Like I was out of the judging. Like I was not allowed to judge because my son was putting one in, and it was a blind contest. So I basically read every of the prayers, There's like 10 of them, and I let everyone else vote on who won, and my son won. Right? And I was like, oh, that looks horrible, but he won the rosary, and he loves that rosary.
Yeah.
Like just because he won it, right? And now that's the only one he prays with.
In the age of just mass consumerism, you got to tie it to things, and like that's the problem with me. Like I churned through like 10 rosaries. So I had a rosary that I got on confirmation from my mother-in-law, and I prayed that thing so much. It had a wire connector. It was like a wire one. It would like leave indents in my hand. I prayed the crap out of that thing. And one day I used to drive stick, and it just broke right as my hand was on the shifter. So it just went all over the car. It was like gone. Like I couldn't repair it. And then I spiraled. I just bought all these different rosaries because I couldn't find one that like replaced it.
Yeah.
And then I realized I'm like, you've got to tie this to an event, or you're just going to constantly buy these things and then get choice paralysis like Rob and his guns because I've got too many. So I love that idea, man. Like if I buy one I like, pray it for 3 more years until my daughters confirm that, and then give it to her and be done with it, and then buy another one for the other one.
Yeah. So I came back to the faith when I was like, I don't know, 35, 36. And my wife and I, we had been married at this point probably 8 years. And it was a hard time during our faith or during our marriage. Like not when I was in Afghanistan getting shot every day. It wasn't when I was a firefighter and I was running into burning buildings. When we weren't going to the same place on Sundays. Yeah. That was the hard, because my wife's from Birmingham. She knew no Catholics ever. Yeah. She knew one Catholic, and they didn't go to mass, which is funny now because she's now friends with that girl again, and she's at our parish, and she's like a Latin mass devout Catholic now, which is funny. That's funny. But when I came back to the faith, I bought a rosary from Rugged Rosaries. It was the Catholic Gentleman Rosary, and I prayed that every day. And I was given advice by a very good priest there in Georgia. And he basically told me, he's like, you can't convert your wife. All you can do is pray for her and love her. And that's it. Yeah. And then, hopefully God will, the Holy Spirit will open up her heart and she'll convert. But I bought my wife a rosary when I bought mine, and I gave it to her. I was like, I was like, I know you don't understand this, but I want you to have this. So if you ever want to pray it with me, I'd be happy to do that. 10 years later now, my wife came into the church in 2019, and we've been going to the Latin Mass for 5 years now, maybe, and that's her favorite rosary. That's awesome. The one I gave her. Yeah. And she has that one most of the time. That's the one she prays with most of the time. And just her having it and giving it, that put the inkling in her mind to start with, right? For her to eventually convert. Because I tell you, when I told her I was going back to the Mass and I was going back to the Catholic Church, she was upset. She was mad. She was crying. She's like, I feel like you're telling me you're becoming Muslim. And, but 3 years later, it was, in fact, what started it was 2018. We were moving from Georgia to Alabama. My wife came to me one day. She's like, hey, would you ever want to move to Alabama? And before she got Alabama out of her mouth, I was like, absolutely, get me out of Atlanta. I hate this place. Yeah. But we found her a job, put my house on the market, sold my house all within 2 weeks. And so we moved to Alabama, and we got here in May of 2018. And I had, I've been coming back to the church for probably, 2 years at this point. And so my birthday was in May, and she's like, what do you want for your birthday? This is before, it was like right as we were about to move. And I was like, I just want you to read. I've been trying to get my wife to read a book for like 10 years. Yeah. Like Rob has heard this story, so I'm going to tell it to you again. And so like during our marriage, I had read a bunch of books she had read just to, just show common interest, whatever. Yeah. To give you an idea of some of the books I read.
His favorite was Twilight.
Twilight series for my wife, right? I read The Notebook.
Oh, right? No, man.
And I kept trying to give her books, and she would never read books ever. I gave her like Game of Thrones and like all these, and she watched the Game of Thrones series, but she never read the books. Well, 2018, I was like, all I want for my birthday is I want you to read a book. She's like, what book? I was like, I want you to read Rome Sweet Home. Let's go.
Dude, I knew you were gonna say that. 'Cause that's perfect.
So
With Kimberly
So I give
and
her the
her
book.
struggle.
yeah, so you know where this is going now. So she's reading the book, and I had found a job doing like a call center or something. Because when I moved to Alabama wouldn't recognize my certifications in the fire department. They're going to make me go back to rookie school. I was like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm 37 years old. I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll just go back to school and I'll be a nurse or something because I was a paramedic and that's the easy transition. But so I'm working at this like call center thing, and she's reading Rome Sweet Home. We go to Mass for Father's Day. We actually go to the Saturday anticipatory Mass for Father's Day. Her parents come over to watch the kids, so just me and her can go. And her parents are not on board with me going back to Catholic. They're super Protestant, and they're like her mom's kind of like very conspiratorial as well. She thinks like the black Jesuits run the world and everything. But so like
If
they're giving
only.
me hell.
You're like, no, it's someone else.
Yeah, they have
Right
actually
concept.
they have even smaller hats than the Jesuits. But so they're giving me hell as we're about to go. And like my father-in-law's had a couple to drink, right? So he's like giving it to me. And like I'm fresh off my like Catholic answers I listened to earlier that day. So I'm getting right back to them. So we go to Mass. We go to this Saturday Mass at this local Novus Ordo. And it was terrible. It was the absolute worst Mass I could have ever taken her to. The deacon was the one who provided the homily. And it was one of those things where like, all the dads, raise your hand, kind of thing. The music was provided by a 15-year-old with a tuba, right? It was just the worst part. So, and I'm explaining to I'm explaining to my wife why she can't receive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, look, and even at this point, I can't receive because I'm in an irregular marriage, and I can't receive either until we regularize the marriage and I go to confession. Because I can't go like at this point, It's been like 2 years and I haven't received the Eucharist. And so I'm explaining, and she's mad. She's like, "What do you mean I can't receive?" I'm like, "Well, you can't. You're not Catholic, And I explain to her why, and she's all mad. So Mass ends, we leave, and we're walking out to the car, and she goes, "I can't believe that was a Catholic Mass." And I was like, "Don't worry, it barely was." Right. The next Sunday, her parents come over again, watch the kids. We go to another Mass, and it is at my current parish. It's the Latin Mass, but he does a 9 a.m. English Novus Ordo. Right. The parish is beautiful, and the Mass was okay. His homily was great, but she's like, "Oh, that was much better." I was like, "Oh, maybe she's coming on to something." The next week, we're driving around downtown Birmingham. I'm not really working very much. My wife's bringing in most of the money because she's a nurse, and we're like just out and about with the kids. We've got 3 kids at the time, and we go by a bookstore downtown Birmingham. And as we're leaving the bookstore, we're passing the cathedral. She's like, "Is that a Catholic church?" I was like, "Yeah, that's a cathedral." She's like, "Can I go in?" I was like, "Sure." So I pull over. And
Dude, at that point, you must have been like, "This is happening."
Well, I was like, I didn't really know what to think, right? At this point, I was like, I'm going to encourage her all the time. So I pull over, and it's street parking. It's downtown. She walks in. She's in for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, what is she? I'm just waiting there. I've got my phone. I'm just scrolling, waiting for her to come out. Wondering what she's doing. She comes out, and she looked like she'd been crying. And I was like, "You okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." I was like, "Okay." And I'll let my wife drive because I'm not suicidal. So we drive off. And that night, I'm asleep because I have to get up at like 4 a.m. to go to work. And she wakes me up, like shakes me awake at like 11 o'clock because she reads in bed. And she's reading Rome Sweet Home. And she wakes me up, and she's crying. I was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Are the kids okay?" She's like, "The kids are fine." She's like, "I feel like God's calling me to become Catholic." And because she had been reading Rome Sweet Home, she had been identifying with Kimberly's chapters because she was super mad, and she couldn't find any fault in anything. So that fall, she started RCIA, and we actually went to a local church. The church where my kids were going to school, because we had put my kids in Catholic school, or at least one of my kids. And it was a classical curriculum, and that's where we chose it. And the nun that was there, she was like a pantsuit nun,
I don't know.
And so one aspect of it was my wife was like, I've never seen a nun before, like somebody who gave themselves to Jesus.
Right.
That's everything, but she doesn't look like a nun. I was like, well, let's go check out the cathedral. We go to the cathedral, and like the catechism gets completely taught by the priest, completely, like every single aspect of it. And so that's where she ended up going. She came to come into the church, and in Easter of 2019, she came into the church. By 2021, we're going to Latin Mass.
Awesome.
And now she would, not have it. And now, in fact, she went to Nashville last weekend with my daughter.
Oh yeah.
My oldest daughter has my niece. My brother-in-law is a musician in Nashville, and he's the lead guitarist and band manager for. Do you know who Morgan Wade is? You ever heard of her?
Mm-mm.
She's like a up and coming country star.
Yeah.
Whatever. She's been in like Landman, I think is the show, maybe, or no, the Dutton Ranch.
Oh yeah.
She's like doing some acting, whatever. Anyway, he's a musician in Nashville. He does pretty well for himself. But my niece and my oldest daughter have really close birthdays, and my wife took my daughter up there for them to have like a birthday weekend together, and they had to go to a Saturday Mass, and it upset my wife.
Where'd they go?
Hendersonville.
Our Lady of the Lake.
Maybe. I didn't ask her the parish.
Bro, I used to live 5 minutes away.
She says like the tabernacle's nowhere to be seen.
Yes. Okay, that's Our Lady of the Lake. I know. And the crucifix is this floating gold.
Maybe.
Yeah.
She said something about that, but she was upset.
It's bad.
She said it was terrible. Because we've always had the practice when we travel anywhere, we make sure we're traveling has a Latin Mass, and we're going to be there on Sunday. Like when we go to the Gulf Coast here, like there's an SSPX chapel down in Destin, St. Anthony Marie Claret, or we go to there's one in Pensacola. There's another diocesan Latin Mass.
Palm Beach,
yeah. So we make sure we're around Latin Mass if we're going to be there on a Sunday, right? And I've made that a point. Like my kids' faith is of the utmost importance. Yeah. If it was just me and my wife, we could go to like a unicorn
and suffer. Yeah,
we'd be fine. But my kids, I will not compromise whatsoever.
Yep. Same.
And so we always make that. But she kicked herself the entire time for doing it because she was basically trying to please other people based on their schedule, and so she's going to the easiest Mass for them to be able to go to. Because I told her, it's like, you need to go to the SSPX in Franklin on the way home.
Yep.
And she's like, well, I'm going to try to do this on Saturday because she wanted to get home as soon as she could. But she hated it.
Because Assumption is the diocesan Latin. There's 2 diocesan Latin Masses in Nashville.
There was one that was closed, like due to construction or something.
That's my parish. And it is absolutely beautiful. Incredibly traditional. We actually, our priest revised the Easter. You know how like they removed the Easter prayers, Pius XII did due to the Holocaust and all that.
Yeah,
Our priest reverted that, so it's like
which is funny because our priest did too.
Yeah,
so we still say it.
But that is gorgeous. I wish that she had been able to experience that, but yeah. And the only other one is in Ashland City, which is very nice. But if you guys were in Hendersonville, it's like a 40-minute drive. So yeah.
And I hate driving through Nashville now because the traffic is terrible. Because I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, my entire life, and they've got there's a Dominican parish up there,
Alton, Kentucky,
the Dominican Rite. There's an SSPX chapel. There's an FSSP chapel. But here in Alabama, we have no traditional orders whatsoever. All we have is diocesan Latin Mass. We have a Latin Mass monastery here in Coleman, Christ the King, but you're not allowed to register there. But we have no. So if something were to happen to my Mass, we'd have nothing. Now I'm uniquely positioned because I'm only an hour and a half away from the one in Georgia. Right. So I could just tough it out and go to that if I needed to, and I probably would if something happened. But like that's an hour and a half, man. That's 3 hours of my day just traveling, plus Mass. That's another hour and a half, right? That's like half my day. at that point. Like, yes, I'll do it, but I shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
That's
that's
I
why
should be able to go to my nearest mass.
That's why I've been. So our diocese is really good. Like it's pretty libertarian when it comes to the liturgy. Libertarian in a good way because the bishop sends this priest around to the liberal parishes, and his job is to like psychologically introduce them to more traditional aspects. Like he just slowly. It's very. So we have a really good, but we do have that SSPX in Franklin, and I've just always told all my friends, I'm like, I mean, you guys might want to start sending them money because this diocese is only as healthy as this bishop's tenure, and they're going to be our line of retreat if things go south.
Because right now, like our bishop has basically just kept his head down.
Yep,
we have a really good vicar of the diocese who's the pastor at the cathedral. He's baptized all my kids in the old rite. Basically advocated for the Latin Mass here, but once he's retiring at the end of next year.
Oh,
and we're EWTN's here, so they're going to put someone here to influence EWTN, right? Because like Pope Leo's not like he's so pronist about the Latin Mass right now, like he's saying one thing and doing another, right?
And that's intentional. So like I can't trust it. So like I've been advocating trying to get an SSPX mass here. I was like, we need one because I was like, I guarantee if you put an SSPX mass here, within a year we'll have an FSSP. Guaranteed. Yeah, you bend the fence one way so that you can settle in a nice medium. Yeah. I feel for you, man. Like that's tough. Our SSPX is looking to expand. I float around. Just like I've got all sorts of considerations because my wife is not Catholic. She's nothing. She was raised nothing. She didn't even know who Moses was she knew nothing. I'm like, you don't even know who Moses is? So I showed her like the DreamWorks Prince of Egypt. I'm like, this is kind of a banger. Like I think you can.
Fantastic movie. Fantastic.
I know. I'm like, this is a freaking masterpiece. Why don't you watch this? It's like Disney Bible version. She's shown a lot of preliminary softenings, like because I'm a convert, so like I've seen so many convert stories and I can recognize the patterns, but there hasn't been the I'm going into a cathedral puffy eyes moment yet. So I'm like taking her to masses, but as you know, the chapel in Franklin is a little, I mean, it looks like a Pentecostal shriek shack. They're trying to expand. And the people are very nice, but I think she's more comfortable at Assumption right now, and we'll see.
And it's important to build a community. And that's parish now. We're very blue collar, like very blue collar. We got some like tweed wearing, theologians, running around in their early 20s, right? But like we whip them in the shape pretty quick. For instance, like the show we did last week with that Avoiding Babylon, Jason Craig started Fraternus. We have a very big Fraternus chapter here in Birmingham. We have it's an average of 150 to 180 men and young men every Wednesday from September to May, right? And Jason Craig is very TLM heavy. He tries to influence that way as much as he can. Our parish, we have a dearth of good quality young men. We have a lot of really good young women who we can't find husbands for because there's not enough young men.
At the TLM,
because we have a lot, and it's not because we don't have any good young men in Birmingham. It's just the way it's settled with a lot of the families that have been going to this mass for 10 years. They just had girls during this like
it's just a roll of the dice.
17 to 22. Yeah, that's pretty much all it came down to.
Rob and Ant probably have a backlog of young locals members.
So like I'm trying to set up like a TLM exchange program, right? Like I'm trying to get like Huntsville to come down and some ours to go up there. Trying to get Atlanta to come over to here, and someone to go there. because there's nothing in Mississippi.
No, there's not. Dude, Mississippi is a desert.
It's a black hole.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to set up like an exchange program. Like I'm trying to get, I don't know if you know Christopher from our Telegram or I belong to Telegram, but he's got a bunch of little young men that, sons. I'm like, you need to send them over to Alabama. Bring them over for a weekend, and we will get them wifed up real quick.
Farm out the boys.
That's what we gotta do, man.
Where are the white women at?
Where the white women at? We got the pumpkin spice lattes.
It was good hanging out with you guys. I can tell Rob's getting exhausted. It's like 10:30.
I haven't eaten yet tonight.
What's that?
I haven't eaten yet tonight.
He's gonna get him a filet-o fish.
Something.
I don't know how.
All right, what time is it? Man, it's 10:30.
It's
My
10:30.
wife's gonna be
Adrian.
so mad.
Adrian, it was great hanging out with you. Thanks for having me
Yeah,
on.
bro.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to come down here to Birmingham sometime and hang out.
Dude, absolutely. I drove through Alabama once, and we drove through the major cities. I'm like, man, I need to check this out.
I'm just east of Birmingham. I got a little farm over here.
I just keep getting more. I keep getting more and more radical, Adrian. So I was like, oh, I went from the north to the south, and now I'm like, it's not enough. I need the deep south.
That's it. We had a conversation one day on the show, and I was like, look, man, urban black is not the same as country black.
No,
like these country blacks out here, they will tear up some urban blacks. Like urban blacks don't know what's going on. But yeah, man, anytime you come down, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Same when you come up here. I hope Assumption is open anytime you and your wife are up, because it's amazing.
We'll probably come through.
Kevin James actually visited once. Nobody recognized him because he had the beard, but
Kevin James is Catholic.
No way. I don't believe that. Next thing you're gonna tell me he served mass for Father Ripperger or something like that.
I don't believe that whatsoever.
He just stared in awe at our ceiling. Our ceiling is painted Marion blue with gold star. It's gorgeous. And I was like, wait, that's Kevin James. And I kind of watched him. And he was just hypnotized. It's a gorgeous church. So
all we get is Ross McKnight. That's all we get over here.
Who's Ross McKnight?
Ross McKnight is a guy. He owned a farm in Louisiana, and he was canceled because he's Catholic. Because he provided you know what foie de gras is? Mm-hmm. It's basically fattened goose liver or something.
Oh yeah,
it's real big with French restaurants.
Yeah,
and he provided a lot of it to restaurants in Louisiana, and they canceled him because he's Catholic. He was on the circuit for a little bit.
No way.
But he came through one day, and I was talking to him, and he's our only local celebrity. Other than we have Mike Pantile come through. That's about it.
We have Candace, which is great for me because if Candace is out there, my bishop will never have an issue with me.
That's true.
A perfect cover.
It's true.
Thank you, Candace.
She's taking all the flack.
Yeah. Well, good hanging out, guys. It was great to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Y'all take care.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
Bye-bye.
I'm trying